Chapter 1916. 3 days. Risfar had been on the sea for almost 3 days. When he boarded the Hydra, he hugged Lola excitedly. Lola had too many questions to ask Risfar. Of course, right now, she only wanted slap. Lola gave Risfar a hard slap on the face. She was angry that Risfar had gone to Somalia despite the danger. On the other hand, Chen Zhao looked at Risfar gloatingly. Risfar was helpless. What could he say? Chen, how come you're with Risfar too? I got lost on the sea. Chen Zhao grinned at Risfar. Risfar rolled his eyes. Lola glanced at Chen Zhao and didn't continue asking. She felt that she could ask Risfar later. All the children were here. This time, Lola was here to welcome Risfar. But to the children, this was a chance to go on a vacation. The children didn't know what had happened to Risfar. Of course, the adults wouldn't tell them what had happened to Risfar. Other than the beating, Risfar didn't have any other side effects. Risfar had wanted Chen Zhao to help treat him. But Lola stopped Chen Zhao. She wanted Risfar to endure the pain for a few more days. That way, she would remember this lesson. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai just watched the show. After picking up Risfar, the Hydra toured the sea for another 2 days. If Risfar and Lola didn't have to go back to clean up the mess, they probably wouldn't have left. Both of them were busy people. They might not even have a few days of vacation in a year. If not for this accident, they probably wouldn't even have time to rest. When they returned to Mingyue Villa, Risfar and Lola hurriedly said goodbye. But they still left the children at Mingyue Villa. Bang! Del, you asterisk shoal. Del put down the phone and looked at Risfar in shock. Fuck, Lola said something happened to you. I've been trying to see if I can save you. Why did you come back yourself? And why are you scolding me as soon as you come back? Did I offend you? Chen saved me. Risfar stared at Chen Zhao angrily. Are you blaming me for not helping? Del looked at Risfar, confused. No, I'm angry that you and Chen hid it from me. You're both spiritualists, but I'm the last to know. Ah. Do you understand? Chen said you have a master. Introduce him to me and I'll forgive you. You've seen it too. When have I seen him before? Last time, when my master carried Faith, you blamed me for letting a stranger carry Faith. That woman is your master. Of course, Chen introduced it to me. Then quickly introduce him to me. I can introduce him to you, but I can't guarantee that master will accept you as his student. If that lady can accept you as her disciple, then I have no problem with it. That's not necessarily the case. The only reason I was able to gain master's favor was because of Faith's talent. I'm still basking in Faith's light, which proves that our family's bloodline is excellent. Risfar rolled his eyes. Faith isn't your biological daughter. It doesn't matter if she's my biological daughter or not. Faith is my daughter, so she's part of my family. A while later, Li Qing arrived at the hotel. Master, this is Risfar. You've met him, right? Hello, Mr. Risfar. No. After all, Risfar was asking for help, so he didn't dare to be disrespectful. Master, Johnny wants to be your disciple too. Li Qing looked at Risfar in surprise. Mr. Risfar, you know about the spiritual world. I just found out not long ago. Li Qing glanced at Del. You told him. No. Chen told him. I see. Li Qing looked at Risfar. Mr. Risfar, if Del's talent is bad, then you have no talent at all. So, you can't learn any of our spells. I can't learn any. Yes. Master, is there no other way? Yes. Some secret spells can let people who can't learn magic have magic power, but they have to pay a huge price. Does it cost money? Risvar asked. No, there aren't any spells that directly require money. However, those that can be called secret spells often require the sacrifice of some lives, or even one's own family. Risvar was shocked. Then I'd better not learn it. That's a wise choice. Li Qing nodded. Serengeti, the starting point of humans. According to archaeologists, the savanna of Serengeti was the origin of modern humans. Whether it was Asians or Europeans, they all came from here. Now, the supernatural organization had settled down in a temporary base in the savanna. This temporary foothold was established by the African Paranormal Alliance. It was specially for spiritualists who came here. However, the conditions of this base were somewhat poor. It only provided water and electricity every day. There were also some stalls on the streets. Other than providing some small businesses for the natives, it also provided spiritualists. Some spiritualists even started businesses here, selling magic tools or magic materials. Sorry, sir. Please don't throw trash randomly. This is a protected area. When Ingelit was walking on the street, he casually threw a cigarette butt, and a woman grabbed his arm. Everyone subconsciously took a few steps back and looked at Ingelit in disgust. Angelite's face twitched. Sorry. As he spoke, Ingelit picked up the cigarette butt. Where are you from? North America, Ingelit answered. Us too, but we don't know him very well. West cut off his relationship with Ingelit. Gritting his teeth, Ingelit stared at West and the others. North America. The woman's eyes were already filled with disdain. Go and register your information. It's at the registration counter over there. Register. Why do we have to register? Recently, the spiritualists who come here often go missing or get killed. Hence, in order to ensure the safety of every spiritualist who comes to help, as well as to have a clearer understanding of every spiritualist's actions, every spiritualist who comes here now has to register. Have there been battles here all this time? There have been 2 large-scale battles, the woman said. The last one was the most intense. At least 20 spiritualists died. Miss, you are. Jiutian Shenhuang. Chapter 1917. When the woman heard West's question, her eyes clearly drifted. With a condescending look, she said, Northern Europe, the Holy Council. West had heard of the Holy Council in Northern Europe. The Holy Council wasn't a top-tier supernatural organization, but it had a certain reputation. It was like the soccer players in England and Spain. Even in second-tier leagues, they felt that their standards were higher than in China. Of course, that was the truth. They were indeed very skilled. That was undeniable. The North American supernatural world was basically the same. Even the second-tier or even third-tier organizations or sects in Europe and Asia. Their standards were still higher than North America's supernatural world. The Holy Council's reputation wasn't because of their glorious deeds. It was because they were mortal enemies of the Scarlet Church. Of course, the current supernatural world wasn't like the past, where one side would fight to the death. Most of the time, mortal enemies wouldn't kill each other for no reason. Most of the time, they competed over certain things, which were battles of words. For example, if there was a competition in the supernatural world, the 2 sides might not perform the best. But once they met, they would go all out in the arena. Or, if one side did something, the other side had to do it. Of course, in the past 100 years, the Scarlet Church had produced a 23rd generation Blood Mary. That was why the Scarlet Church had always suppressed the Holy Council. When Sivir looked at West and the others, she did look down on them. How barren was North America's supernatural world? Most of the time, one or two evil spirits could cause a ruckus. Because no one was there to deal with it. If they were in other areas, if an evil spirit dared to cause trouble, they would definitely be dealt with properly. "I'll take you there," Sivir said. In this temporary settlement, half of the people were spiritualists. The other half had interacted with spiritualists before. So here, everyone was familiar with the supernatural world and magic. The registration process was simple. Basically, everyone just had to state their identity and the organization they belonged to. But West felt that the registrants seemed to be on guard against something. West led the group out of the simple registration office. Sivir was still by his side. "You better not wander around at night." "Why?" "It's not absolutely safe here." "Are you saying that other people will harm us?" West asked. "Do you know why we are gathered here?" "Protect Poison Dragon, the guardian of the grassland," West said. "That's right. The ones who attacked the poisonous dragon were not only unclean creatures, but also a group of unclean humans. They worship evil gods. They think that as long as they kill the poisonous dragon, they can destroy the balance of nature." Sivir said, "So, not only do we have to fight against the unclean creatures, but we also have to fight against our own kind hidden among us." Sylvie paused for a moment before continuing. "In the past, most of the missing people were attacked by humans. So this registration is also to distinguish between friend and foe?" Sivir nodded. "Yes. Then are we under suspicion?" "Your passports have minimized your suspicions," Sivir said. "Looks like we're in luck," West said with a smile. "I live in a small house to the north of the settlement. If you have any trouble, you can come to me," Sivir replied calmly. Sivir turned around and left. "Come on, let's go to our place." "Mr. West, where are we staying?" "By the river," West said. "There are some houses there. I paid some money just now, so the person in charge arranged a nice house for us." When they found a place to stay, they found that it was indeed nice. Other than the crocodiles in the river, there were no obvious flaws. As for the crocodiles' activities, it was not a problem for them. Although the houses here were all made of wood, the style was not bad. They also had some electrical equipment. They did not have to live like primitive people. West said he paid some money, but it was not a small amount. At least the money was enough to build these wooden houses. Otherwise, they would not have been assigned such a nice house. The houses by the river were in a row. 80% of them were occupied by the supernatural organization. After a few days of traveling, they could finally rest. However, before they could pack their luggage, they heard a noise outside. "Come out. I want to see who dares to live in a place I like." Curses came from outside. The voice was very arrogant. Everyone in the supernatural organization heard it. One by one, they came out of their rooms. When they came out, they immediately saw an old acquaintance. When this old acquaintance saw the people from the supernatural organization, he felt as if his throat was choked by a hand. His voice was stuck in his throat. This person was none other than the person they had met in the Norwegian forest during their last mission. He was the person in charge of the Holy Flame sect in Norway, Magori Modrich. Magori Modrich opened his mouth. His face was filled with stiffness and awkwardness. He never would have thought that he would meet someone from the supernatural organization in the Serengeti Plains that was tens of thousands of miles away. He had escaped death last time. He did not expect to meet people from the supernatural organization again this time. "Mr. Magori, what a coincidence. We meet again." West stood in front of the door and squinted at Magori Modrich. Jalanash walked over too. A ball of fire gathered in her palm. "Mr. Magori, I've mastered the little sun I got from you last time. I can ask you for some pointers." That misunderstanding, it's really a misunderstanding, Magori Modrich hurriedly said. What a joke. If they fought with these people, they would not even know how they died. Last time, he and his men had already suffered. This time, he did not bring as many people as last time. Mainly because they had suffered heavy losses last time. They still did not have enough people. If there was another conflict, even if all his men died, they would not be able to defeat the supernatural organization. Also, in the supernatural organization, the person who had left the deepest impression on Magori was Helios. This guy had killed that lunatic Ribbrick. Magori felt that even if Helios was alone, they would not be able to deal with him. At this moment, he groaned inwardly. He wanted to turn around and leave. Chapter 1918. Ha! Mr. West, long time no see. Modrich laughed loudly to hide his awkwardness. I'm joking with you. I heard that you live here, so I came to catch up with you. West looked at Modrich with his hands behind his back. He still had a meaningful smile on his face. Mr. Magri, I heard that there are some evil cultists here. Could it be you? West stared coldly at Magri Modrich. Don't joke around. Although our Holy Flame sect's teachings are incompatible with the general public, we are very different from the real evil cultists. Holy Flame sect was now an evil sect, but evil sect and evil cult were two different concepts. Evil sects were the kind where I know I'm a bad person and do bad things. Evil cultists turn twisted logic into truth. I'm a good person. You have to believe in me and my teachings. Like Holy Flame sect, if they were willing, they could even carry out 1 or 2 internal reforms to correct some behaviors that were not tolerated by the secular world and the government. Then, they could become an ordinary organization. The government and the spiritual world wouldn't be so ruthless. Many sects were even examples of turning over a new leaf. But evil cultists couldn't. Their teachings had already determined their identity. Whether it was the government or the people of the spiritual world, there was only one way to deal with evil cultists and evil cultists. Destroy. Destroy from the body to the soul. Modrich didn't want to be treated as an evil cultist. Especially in this place, where there were people from the spirit world all around. He and his subordinates combined wouldn't be able to do anything here. Of course, Magri Modric had also registered his presence here. Although they were still a little suspicious in the eyes of the person in charge here. But since he could appear so brazenly, it meant that he wasn't afraid of the shadows. You're also here for the protection mission. West was curious. Magri Modric was actually participating in this mission. There are benefits. Benefits? Are you talking about the reward for the Scarlet Mission? Although the reward for the Scarlet Mission is great, it's too difficult to get the reward in front of hundreds of spiritualists. Modrich shook his head. I'm interested in the gift from the Nature Guardian. Are you talking about Poison Dragon? Can he give a reward? As a Nature Guardian, Poison Dragon has a special power that can bestow some special powers to others. What special power? Not necessarily. Magri Modrich shook his head. There are very few people who can obtain this power, and there are certain restrictions. The only thing that is certain is that only those with outstanding performance can obtain this gift. Just then, Sivir walked over. She had heard that people from the Sacred Flame sect were nearby, so she had come over to take a look. If the people from the Sacred Flame sect were to cause trouble, she would be able to stop them in time. Due to the Sacred Flame sect's misdeeds in the past, they were the main suspects after arriving here. Even though it was unlikely that they were cultists. However, he was still being monitored in secret. Furthermore, the Sacred Flame sect had always been domineering. Sivir felt that if the people of the Sacred Flames sect had a conflict with these people from the North American spiritual world, the Americans would definitely be at a disadvantage. But when she arrived, she found that there was no conflict between them. They seemed to be getting along very well. At the very least, the person in charge of the Sacred Flames sect's team had a pleasant chat with West. "Mr. West, do you need any help?" Sivir asked. "No, I didn't." West shook his head. "If you need help, as long as you're in this settlement, you don't have to worry about anything. I promise you that no one will create chaos in front of me. Thank you for your kindness, but we really don't need it." "All right then." Seeing that West had no intention of asking her for help, Sivir gave up on being the supernatural organization's protector. West realized that Sivir wasn't very strong. But Magri Modric was very wary of Sivir. Also, Sivir seemed a little nosy. "She shouldn't be a staff member here, right? Mr. Muggery, do you know this woman?" "She is a member of the Holy Council." "The Holy Council? It's just a second-rate force. You didn't look so relaxed when you were facing her." West went straight to Magri Modric's sore spot. "She's the person chosen by the Nature's Guardian. She can borrow the Guardian's power here and in the surrounding areas. In other words, as long as she doesn't squander her magic power, she can borrow the Guardian's power infinitely. Even if the person she borrows power from is very strong, it will hurt herself if she borrows power that doesn't belong to her too many times. So, she can't borrow other people's power infinitely." "That's true, but even if she's not really invincible, she still represents the Nature's Guardian. As for a spiritualist trying to attack another spiritualist, the Nature's Guardian appeared." "Thank you for your answer, Mr. Muggery." "You're welcome. We're friends, aren't we?" Modric secretly heaved a sigh of relief. After all, the previous battle had left a deep impression on him. This time, they were competitors too. But Modric still hoped to maintain a good relationship with Qin Zhao. That way, if there was a battle or danger, the people from the supernatural organization might be willing to help them out. Also, the Holy Fire sect wasn't very popular in the residential area. If they were in trouble, others might not take advantage of them, but they would definitely gloat and watch the show. The Sacred Flame sect was in need of a strong and powerful ally here. At the same time, they didn't have anyone that they hated deeply. The supernatural organization had both of these conditions. That was why Modric was willing to tell West and the others about the information he had. "I heard that there are some cultists in this residential area," West said. "Do you know who they are?" "I'm not sure who it is exactly. However, when we first arrived here yesterday, someone hinted that he hoped that our Sacred Flame sect could cooperate with them. The other party's words sounded like he was trying to bewitch me." Truth was what the Church of Truth pursued. But their truth is very different from that of the general public. Their truth is sociopathic. One of the top 10 evil cults in the world. The cultist exuded a dangerous aura and looked at Engelite with a sinister gaze. Angelite's pupils suddenly dilated. The next moment, Engelite suddenly dodged. A sharp blade slashed through the place where Engelite had been standing without any warning. Spatial magic. Engelite frowned. He was a spiritualist who specialized in speed, and theoretically, spatial magic was higher than speed. Of course, Engelite wouldn't be scared even if he faced a spatial opponent. Even if it was superior magic, in the end, it still required actual combat experience and personal magic power cultivation to rely on. The cultist waved his arm. Engelite suddenly sensed danger in front of him. Although there was nothing in front of Engelite, he knew that he would be in danger if he took one more step. Spatial magic wasn't just rare, it was also very dangerous and troublesome. Although necromancy was dangerous and strange, most necromancy magic was visible. But spatial magic was mostly invisible. When fighting against spatial enemies, one had to rely on one's senses. There are spatial traps all around you. You'll die if you move again. The cultist stared at Engelit coldly. Engelit raised his hands decisively. I surrender. The cultist sneered. He didn't believe that Engelit would surrender so easily. A lot of sharp blades suddenly shot out from the spatial traps around Engelit. Engelit was prepared as well. In an instant, Engelit's arms danced in the air. All the sharp blades were caught between his fingers. The next moment, Engelit waved his arms. The blades flew back into the spatial traps. Also, when Engelit returned the blades, he had filled them with magic power. These spaces themselves were constructed from magic power. Once abnormal magic power appeared, it would directly cause space to become unstable and collapse. Engelit broke free in an instant. The cultist felt a pain in his neck. Engelit had already grabbed him by the neck. Just then, the cultist pressed the alarm. All the cultists who lived nearby swarmed over. You can't escape. The cultist stared at Engelit. You're fighting against the world's consciousness, so you're bound to lose. Engelit smiled casually. You don't represent the world's consciousness. By then, more cultists had charged into the building. Engelit sped up again. His figure was beyond the limits of what the naked eye could see. Engelit left a trail of flames behind as he charged. All the cultists in his path collapsed. Engelit was too fast. He didn't give the cultists any time to cast their spells. The first cultist had always been in Engelit's grasp. The pressure he endured had also exceeded the limits of human endurance. When Engelit stopped again, the cultist in his hand was on the verge of death. See? You lost. Engelit had a faint smile on his face. The cultist looked up at Engelit. Are you sure we lost? Engelit had the cultist firmly in his control. He didn't have a chance to attack. Then show me how you resist. One day, you'll understand. The viruses of your world don't understand. Everything is arranged by fate. Even everything you're doing now is part of the plan. Chapter 1920. The battle here had already alarmed more than half of the gathering area. Many people came to watch. But no one interfered. Sivir and Irene Horton pushed through the crowd. When Sivir saw Engelit, she recognized him. It's him. Do you know his mom? Irene Horton asked. I brought him and his friends to register. I only know that they're from North America. This person is very strong, at least stronger than most people in the gathering area. Is he really from North America? Irene Horton asked in surprise. It was like a football genius in China. It would cause a sensation. This person is not only strong, but also very experienced. Sivir was also surprised. He could face more than 20 enemies alone and still fight with ease. His enemies weren't weak, but they couldn't do anything to Engelit. Sivir frowned and was about to stop the fight. Irene Horton stopped Sivir. Don't go over yet. What's wrong? Sivir asked, confused. Look at the weapons they're holding. The two daggers are strange. They look like ancient daggers. They're used to bleed. Some ancient religions would use these daggers to bleed sacrifices. Sivir raised an eyebrow. There were a few victims a few days ago. They were bled. That's right. Irene Horton nodded. Very few people use this kind of dagger now. Those two looked very familiar with it, as if they had practiced it before. They're cultists. Sivir suddenly realized. Sivir looked in the direction of the supernatural organization. They didn't want to fight either. They were all watching from the side. The battle didn't last long. Enrich displayed overwhelming strength and his unparalleled battle experience. Even with his back to the enemy, no one could attack him from behind. Enrich clapped his hands and walked to Sivir and Irene Horton. Then, he flicked his finger, and a badge he'd found from the cultists landed in Sivir's hand. Sivir's pupils contracted when she saw the badge. Truth. Reason. Sect was a famous evil sect. They found it there. Enrich, on the other hand, strolled back to the team in a carefree manner. The records in the Heroic Spirits notebook are not bad, West said. The reason they attacked the cultists was for the merit points. There are a few unfriendly gazes, Helios said. Looks like there are still fish that escaped the net, Enrich said. These cultists seem to be planning something. Grandpa, I'm already at your door. Sannel called Stephen. Oh, wait, you're in front of my house. Stephen suddenly realized. Yeah, what's wrong? I'm not at home now. I'm at the company, Stephen said quickly. It's okay. I have the key to your house, Sannel said. Wait, I'm going to change the key, Stephen said. I'll get my bodyguard to give you the key. But you didn't lock the door. Sanner pushed open the door of Stephen's villa. I'm already in. Don't go in yet. Stephen was anxious. Raymond was still in his house. Don't scare Sannel by barging in like this. Confused, Sannel walked into the villa. Sannel, I remember now. I have something here. Come to my company immediately. I have something for you. Grandpa, can't you just bring it back? I'm tired. I don't want to move now. Sannel entered the villa and went to the kitchen to get a drink. You should be back soon. Why are you free to come to my house? Don't you go to school? It's the weekend. Mom doesn't come home all day. I'm bored at home alone, so I plan to stay here for 2 days. Grandpa, do you not welcome me? No, I welcome you. Of course I welcome you. Why wouldn't I? Stephen stuttered. Then rest well and watch the movie first. There's a DVD of my new movie at home. I've already watched it in the theater. Then watch it again. I've watched it 10 times to support your movie. The DVD at home is different. What's different? It's a Blu-ray, and a lot of content that wasn't edited in the theater. Oh, then I'll watch it again. Sannel turned on the DVD player and found the DVD that Stephen mentioned. The DVD player had just played the beginning of the movie. Sannel suddenly heard a sound outside. Sannel turned his head and saw nothing. But just as Sannel turned his attention back to the movie, he heard a splash from the swimming pool outside. Sannel stood up in confusion and looked at the swimming pool through the French windows. There were ripples in the swimming pool. But there was nothing in the swimming pool. There was no one in sight either. Sannel frowned. There was no one here, and there was nothing in the water. Why were there ripples? Sannel walked to the front yard and looked around a few times. There was a water stain next to the pool, and the water stain left a clear trail that extended into the grass next to it. Something seemed to have crawled out of the water and hid in the grass. Sanner swallowed his saliva. Could it be that some unknown person had entered the villa? Sannel shouted into the grass, "Come out, I see you." But no one responded to Sanner. Sannel shouted again, "If you don't come out, I'll call the police." Still, there was no movement. Sannel gathered his courage and rushed to the edge of the grass, pulling it open. There was nothing inside. It was empty. Sannel heaved a long sigh of relief. Suddenly, Sannel felt a chill on the back of her neck. It was like a cold wind blowing on the back of her neck. Sannel turned his head. But he saw a ferocious face. Snake. A super big snake. The huge snake's head was facing Sannel, less than 10 centimeters away from her face. Their eyes met, and then, Sannel fell backward and fainted. Not long after, Stephen came running back in a hurry. Seeing Raymond and Sannel lying on the ground, he hurried over. Raymond, what did you do to Sannel? Raymond spat a mouthful of saliva onto Stephen's body, then turned around and dove into the bushes. Stephen wiped away Raymond's saliva and hurriedly picked up Sannel. Sannel was only unconscious, not injured. Obviously, he had misunderstood Raymond just now. Stephen had misunderstood Raymond because he was too anxious. Chapter 1921. Helplessly, Stephen could only call Chen Zhao. Chen, something happened at home. What? Just now, when Sannel came back, she ran into Raymond and fainted. Then take her to the hospital. Why are you calling me? Raymond seems to be angry at me. I misunderstood him. Okay, I'll go now. When Chen Zhao arrived at Stephen's house, Raymond came out. Master, take me back. I hate this old human man. Chen Zhao shrugged helplessly. Okay. Stephen hurriedly ran out. Chen, you're here. How's your granddaughter? She just fainted. Take me to see her. Raymond, he's angry. Then help me explain. Explain my ass. It's already a misunderstanding. Raymond had always been petty. Explanations were useless against him. If not for Chen Zhao restraining him, Raymond would probably have torn Stephen apart. After all, Raymond was a demon, and one that could distinguish between gratitude and grudges. What do we do now? I'll take Raymond back. Stephen was also helpless, but he still felt somewhat guilty. Take me to see your granddaughter. Chen Zhao entered the room and checked on Sannel. She was fine. She was just scared. Fainting was a human self-protection mechanism. Excessive psychological and physiological reactions would cause the brain to temporarily seal itself, which was fainting. It's nothing. She'll wake up after a nap. And then what? How do I explain to Sannel later? Just say that she fainted from anemia and had hallucinations. There's nothing hard to explain, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. That's true. Stephen nodded. Chen, apologize to Raymond for me. I misunderstood him. Apologize yourself. I can't do anything about it. How can someone else apologize for you? What does Raymond like to eat? This can't be made up for with food. Raymond's pride is hurt. Stephen felt more and more guilty. He wanted to do something to make up for Raymond's hurt. Chen Zhao brought Raymond back. Ah! Sannel screamed as soon as she woke up. But when she opened her eyes, she saw Stephen and Daily Moore standing by her window. Grandpa, Mom. A snake, a very big snake. Sunir exclaimed. What snake? I saw it. I really saw it. A very, very big snake. What snake? Sannel, are you hallucinating? The doctor came just now and said you're in a coma due to anemia, Daily Moore said. Illusion. Is it an illusion? Sanner looked at Stephen in surprise. Yeah, I don't have any snakes here, Stephen said with certainty. Was it really an illusion? Zanel heard Stephen and Dahlia Moore's replies. He was also a little unsure. After all, the giant snake in her mind was too exaggerated. Normally speaking, it was impossible for such a huge snake to exist. Therefore, Stephen and Daly Moore's explanation made more sense. However, when he was unconscious, how could he have such a hallucination? Moreover, his body had always been very healthy. How did he suddenly become anemic? But Sangner didn't think too much about it. Rest well. Stephen and Dahlia Moore left the room. Dahlia Moore, is Sannel okay? She's fine. She's just scared. What can happen to her? I was worried that she'd be like you. How can there be such a coincidence? Dahlia Moore shook her head. That's good. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome. It's not troublesome. I can solve it myself now. Plus, I know my kind. Plus, even if my friend and I can't solve it, there's still Chin. There's nothing he can't solve. Is Chin stronger than you and your friend? There's no comparison. Dahlia Moore had never seen Chin Zhao fight with his full strength. But Not Singer had seen him before. She'd even told her about Chin Zhao's terrifying side. Stephen, on the other hand, was just an ordinary person, so he didn't have any concept of strength. But Stephen had seen Chin Zhao fight before. That was the only time he'd experienced a supernatural event. Stephen still had a deep impression of it. Basically, as long as it's a supernatural event, Chin can solve it. Is Chin that strong? My friend said that there's almost no one in the world who can beat Chin. Then he should go boxing. He can definitely become a boxing superstar. No, I think he has a student who's a boxer. Dahlia Moore felt like she was playing the piano to a cow. Stephen couldn't understand it all. Boxing. All the boxers combined couldn't even compare to one of Chin Zhao's fingers. Nagasaka Reiko enjoyed the scenery along the way. It was her first time in Los Angeles. Before coming, her grandmother, Yoko Hikari, had reminded her many times. She had to maintain a good relationship with Chin Zhao. This would determine whether she could successfully take over the position of the Witch of Tokyo Grand Shrine in the future. Nagasaka Reiko had also seen Chin Zhao's most terrifying side. She was one of the few people who'd witnessed and survived the battle between Chin Zhao and Tamamonome. After passing the coastal highway, a gorgeous manor built on a cliff appeared before them. When the car arrived at Mingyue Villa, Nagasaka Reiko alighted. Nagaka Reiko entered Mingyue Villa and saw Chin Zhao and the children playing around. Nagasaka Reiko saw a huge head in the courtyard. It was clearly the head of a dragon. Hello, Mr. Chin. Yes, hello. Nice to meet you, Ms. Reiko. Chin Zhao nodded. I just arrived in Los Angeles today, so I came to greet you as soon as possible. Don't be so polite. I'm not used to it. What plans do you have next? Chin Zhao looked at Nagasaka Reiko. He was not used to Nagasaka Reiko's politeness. Nagasaka Reiko had too many etiquettes. The moment she found Chin Zhao, she knelt on the ground and kowtowed to him. I'm planning to go through the enrollment procedures at UCLA, Nagasaka Reiko said respectfully. Also, I hope to become a part of the supernatural organization. Even if it's just an internship, it's fine. Please allow me, Mr. Chin. Sure, but the people from the organization have all gone to Africa, so there's no one at the headquarters now. Find a place to live first and focus on the enrollment procedures. When the people from the organization come back, I'll arrange for you to join the organization. Yes, Mr. Chin. I think you've just arrived in Los Angeles and have many things to do, so I won't keep you here. Chapter 1922. Yes, Mr. Chin. I will follow all your orders. Nagasaka Reiko knelt before Chin Zhao and bowed. Chin Zhao rubbed his forehead. He really couldn't accept Japanese etiquette. It was as if this was the only way they could talk properly. Before he left Japan, he promised Yoko White that he would take care of Nagasaka Reiko. One of the most important reasons was Donya Tianchi. In the past, Higashino Tianchi had been taken care of by Yoko Baina. Donya Tianchi was one of his people, so it was only right for him to return the favor. It was also human nature for him to take care of Nagasaka Reiko. Before Nagasaka Reiko could leave Mingyue Villa, Wang He arrived. When Nagasaka Reiko saw Wang He, she was stunned for a moment before bowing to Wang He. "Hello, Crane Lord." Wang He's current reputation in Asia had far surpassed that of Europe and America. Especially among the youths, she had become an iconic star. Of course, Nagasaka Reiko also knew Wang He. Wang He was also stunned for a moment. Even though Nagasaka Reiko spoke in English. However, her posture made it obvious where she came from. "Can I have your autograph?" Okay. Wang He gave Nagasaka Reiko an autograph. After all, Nagasaka Reiko had appeared in Mingyue Villa. She must know Chen Zhao. Wang He turned around and looked at Chen Zhao. "Crane Lord, are you here to see Mr. Chen?" "Yes, Mr. Chen and I are old acquaintances." "Then I won't bother you anymore. Goodbye." Nagasaka Reiko bowed, and Wang He followed suit and bowed. He didn't know how to return the gesture. Most of the countrymen could not accept the Japanese etiquette. Wang He brought Xiao Lu to Chen Zhao. "Hello, Mr. Chen. All right, let's sit down and talk." At this moment, Xiao Lu was shocked by the magnificence of the Mingyue Villa. In China, except for the area around Xiangjiang, it was basically impossible to see a manor of this scale in the mainland. Especially in such a position. Xiao Lu was very reserved. He didn't know whether to stand or sit. "Xiao Lu, bring the present for Mr. Chen." Chen Zhao glanced at the gift Lu was holding. "Put it down. It's really heavy. What would you like to drink?" "Coke." "Lu, don't tell Nanjia." This was not the first time Wang He had met Chen Zhao, nor was it his first time at Mingyue Villa. Therefore, relatively speaking, it was much easier. "Back home, all my food and drink are restricted," Wang He said with a smile. "This is the price of being a star. Didi, help me get a few bottles of Coke. I'm quite envious of you. Everywhere you go, there are flowers and applause. I envy you too, Mr. Chen." "All right, enough with the pleasantries. Did you change your assistant?" "I've never seen him before." Chen Zhao looked at Lu. "Mr. Chen, nice to meet you. I'm Lu Yiming, Brother Wang's new agent." Xiao Lu was also someone who had seen the world. He had been in the industry for a long time. He had also accumulated a certain amount of connections, coupled with excellent workability. It was because of this that he was able to snatch the opportunity to become Wang He's manager. He had also met some big bosses. Of course, this was the first time he had the opportunity to meet such a top tycoon face to face. There was no chance for him to talk to such a tycoon in China. After all, he was in the entertainment industry. The biggest boss in the entertainment industry was not considered a top tycoon. Not to mention a small fry like him. There were many people in the entertainment industry who had more connections and skills than him. At most, he had a bit of fame in the industry. Therefore, he did not dare to be careless when facing Chen Zhao, nor did he dare to put on airs and think too highly of himself. "That young lady earlier is a Japanese." "Yes, a relative's child." "Mr. Chen, you have Japanese blood. You're the one with Japanese blood. Your whole family is Japanese," Chen Zhao scolded immediately. Wang He smiled awkwardly. The more Chen Zhao scolded him, the more he felt fine. "Mr. Chen, where's Ms. Gaia?" Oh, she went to Africa, Chen Zhao said. Is there any new movie? I'm waiting for Mr. Chen to invest, Wang He replied, smiling. I'm just playing. God knows when the next movie will be. If you wait for me to invest in a new movie, don't even think about it for the rest of your life. Wang He chuckled. He also knew that Chen Zhao could not invest in every movie. Compared to when they first met, Wang He was much more mature now. Whether it was his speech, behavior, or expression, he could be calm. He no longer showed his emotions on his face like before. His conversation with Chen Zhao was more like a conversation between friends. Mr. Chen, are you going to the movie celebration party? I won't go. I hate those kinds of occasions the most. It's too troublesome. Chen Zhao shook his head. I want to be as carefree as you, Mr. Chen. But Wang He also knew that it was impossible. After all, he was an artist, no matter how high his status was. He had to be respectful to investors, sponsors, and even directors and assistant directors. Mr. Chen, when are you coming back? I don't have any plans for now. Wang He was not the first person to say this. But Chen Zhao did not know what he would do after returning. There were only a few people he had contact with in China, such as his university teachers. He would only say good wishes to his teachers during holidays. As for his classmates or friends, he had basically lost contact with them. He did not even visit his relatives in China. Why would he go back? Therefore, Chen Zhao basically gave up on the idea of returning. Wang He and Chen Zhao chatted for an hour. They were basically talking about the changes in China. Wang He had always thought that Chen Zhao had been abroad for more than 10 years. In reality, Chen Zhao had only been abroad for a little more than 2 years. There would not be any drastic changes in China. Chen Zhao did not correct Wang He's thoughts. The two had a good chat. Then, Wang He said goodbye and left. Chen Zhao glanced at the time. He had not called Xian Li and the others today. It should be around 9 at night in England. Chen Zhao called Xian Li. Xian Li, are you still in Edinburgh? Uncle, we're in London now. Our next stop is Denmark's capital, Copenhagen. Oh. Have a good time. Uncle, we're not playing. We're exploring, Xian Li corrected him immediately. Okay, I was wrong. I hope your exploration goes well. Xian Li still did not know that Chen Zhao had interfered when she was injured last time. She thought that she had hidden it perfectly and that Ruan Faxi and the others had cooperated well too. Her explanation to Chen Zhao was that she had lost her phone for the past 2 days, so she had not called him. Chapter 1923. Chen Zhao took out the stone that he'd gotten from Edinburgh. This stone had fused with the king of monsters, the 100-headed snake. The stone was very big. The longest part was about 40 meters long, and the smallest part was 20 meters. It was almost oval. It weighed more than 1,000 tons. Even the 100-headed snake couldn't move it. Chen Zhao had been studying the stone's texture over the past few days. But he didn't get any results. Yang Gua had said that he could feel the life force contained in the stone. He'd already sent the small stone back to Dragon Tiger Mountain. Chen Zhao couldn't feel the life force in it. But he'd seen it in his battle with the 100-headed snake. No matter how many heads Chen Zhao cut off, he could always regrow them. Even Chen Zhao couldn't compare to its surging life force. Other than those that could crush Chen Zhao with a finger, the 100-headed snake's life force was the strongest he'd ever seen. It was closest to being immortal. Even with the black trident, Chen Zhao had to stab the place where the 100-headed snake was connected to the stone to kill it. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of something. Satan's blood was pure destruction, while this stone was pure life force. If they collided, who would be left behind? Satan's blood was the most domineering thing Qin Zhao had ever seen. Except for Qin Zhao's black trident. When Old Turtle ascended, he'd fused his inner core, which was transformed from immortal power, into the black trident. Therefore, it wasn't an exaggeration to call it an immortal weapon. Satan's blood was even more domineering. Anyone below the Demon King level would die with one touch. Qin Zhao would need hundreds or even thousands of years to absorb the power in Satan's blood. Therefore, Qin Zhao was thinking that if there was something that could neutralize Satan's blood, would it be easier for him to absorb it? But how to fuse it was another problem. Should he release Satan's blood directly from the bottle? Just the destructive power of Satan's blood alone was enough to destroy Qin Zhao's Mingyue villa and all the living things within 100 miles. Of course, Qin Zhao could use a cool spell to absorb the power of Satan's blood in advance. But then, Satan's blood would become a one-time weapon. Qin Zhao couldn't absorb it for his own power. He could only use it as a weapon. Therefore, the idea of using Satan's blood to fuse with this stone was obviously not feasible. He wanted to see if his immortal energy would react to it. Qin Zhao tried to send his immortal power into the stone, but there was no reaction. Qin Zhao touched the rough surface with his palm. The material of this stone was very hard. However, it was not indestructible. Qin Zhao thought of the 100-headed snake. It could fuse with rocks. Furthermore, he could absorb the life force within it. However, that kind of fusion was clearly not what Qin Zhao wanted. He didn't want his body to grow on a rock. Qin Zhao thought of a solution, a very old-fashioned one. Eat stones. Qin Zhao broke a stone off the boulder and put it in his mouth to chew. Of course, the taste was not good, very bad. Qin Zhao finished it in one bite. His mouth was already dry, so he had to drink it with water. Useful. He realized that his digestive system was absorbing the life force in the stone. But isn't this absorption and digestion speed a little too slow? Not only was it a problem of low efficiency, but the utilization rate was also very low. If it is taken orally in this manner. Even if Qin Zhao ate day and night, it would take him more than a decade to finish over 1,000 tons of stones. By then, even if Qin Zhao didn't get stones, his teeth would fall out. Moreover, there was an 80% to 90% chance that this method would also waste the vitality within. Would Qin Zhao have to absorb it a second time? Just thinking about it was disgusting. So, taking it orally was clearly the stupidest method. There had to be a more efficient way. Qin Zhao thought of another problem. Why could it be absorbed in his stomach? Was it stomach acid? Or was it just liquid? Qin Zhao thought about it and decided to do an experiment. He soaked the stones in fresh water, seawater, and vinegar. He wanted to see how the three reacted to the stones. After 20 minutes of soaking, Qin Zhao observed the three separately. They all seemed to have similar effects. Then, Qin Zhao drank the liquid that had soaked the stones. Seawater had the worst effect. Qin Zhao absorbed very little life force, less than 20%. Fresh water had the best effect. It could absorb about 80% of the liquid's life force. Vinegar was average. It could absorb about 50% of the liquid's life force. However, vinegar dissolved the stones the fastest. This was understandable. After all, acid was the most corrosive substance in nature. Qin Zhao thought about it. Even if he soaked it in fresh water, it would probably take decades to completely dissolve such a large stone. Just then, Zhang Tianyi called. Qin Zhao, how have you been? Nothing much. Why are you so angry? Who made you unhappy this time? Nothing, what's up? Can't I call you to greet you for no reason? Alright, are you done greeting them? You must have taken the wrong medicine, Zhang Tianyi said frivolously. Tell me, what's up? Zhang Tianyi could hear Chen Zhao's impatience and immediately returned to the topic. Okay, do you still have the stones you asked Yang Gua to send? Yes. Chen Zhao's heart skipped a beat, but his tone remained calm. Give me some more. No more. Chen Zhao, can we be more sincere? You want them all the time. Do you think there's a lot of them? I only have a little myself. From the marks on the stone you gave me, it's definitely from a very large stone. It's at least dozens of kilograms. I don't want a lot. Just give me half. Ha! Chen Zhao sneered. Tell me your conditions, Zhang Tianyi said dejectedly. This stone contains a lot of vitality, right? Chen Zhao asked. Hearing this, Zhang Tianyi was even more dejected. Since Chen Zhao already knew, he couldn't ask for too low a price. Cut the crap. Tell me your conditions. What do they call them in the spiritual world? Chen Zhao asked. In China, they call them primordial stones. In Europe and America, they call them life stones. How do you usually absorb primordial stones? Chen Zhao asked. That's difficult, sorry for disturbing. Chen Zhao hung up. A while later, Zhang Tianyi called again. How can you be like this? You hang up the moment you don't agree with me. It's because you're not honest at all. Fine, let's be honest. First, tell me how many primordial stones you have. Around 100 kilograms, Chen Zhao said. Based on your cunning personality, that means you have at least 200 kilograms. 9 Heavens Divine Emperor. Chapter 1924. Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi weren't actually close. More accurately, they'd only met twice. The first time was when 23rd generation Blood Mary brought him to Moon Villa. They'd had an exchange of magic, dharma, and enlightenment. The other time was when he was in Dongying. So they weren't close. But Chen Zhao felt that they should be. Zhang Tianyi was a charismatic person. It was hard for people to distance themselves from him. His casual and carefree attitude made Chen Zhao feel comfortable. Of course, just because Chen Zhao liked Zhang Tianyi didn't mean he'd give it to him for free. Old Zhang, let's be honest. Why did you take the primordial stones? Nonsense, Zhang Tianyi said matter-of-factly. With such dense vitality, of course I use it to extend my lifespan. Does Dragon Tiger Mountain have some secret technique that can absorb the vitality of primordial stones? This secret technique is a secret of our Longhu Mountain. Name your price. Zhang Tianyi could speak to Chen Zhao so calmly. This meant that it was on the trade list. I want 50 kilograms, Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi said, don't be in a hurry to bargain. 50 kilograms of primordial stones can increase my lifespan by almost 10 years. I know that you have at least 200 kilograms of primordial stones in your hands. I only want a quarter of your lifespan. It's not too much. If you rely on primordial stones, you can at most increase your lifespan by 30 years. You can only strengthen your body, but it can't achieve the effect of increasing your lifespan. More than 30 years and it won't work. Hearing that, Zhang Tianyi immediately yelled, Great, you really have more primordial stones. It's none of your business, Chen Zhao said straightforwardly. I'll agree to 50 kilograms. Don't even think about more. How much do you have? None of your business. Tell me how much you have. Not much. Tell me the truth. How much do you have? Around 300 kilograms. Really? Really, more real than pearls. Give me 150 kilograms, Zhang Tianyi said. No, you want half at once. Don't even think about it. Definitely more than 300 kilograms. You definitely have more. I really didn't. Chen Zhao wouldn't admit it no matter what. Chen Zhao, you're still young. You can't understand my fear of death. I don't have much time left. I really didn't. Give me 150 kilograms. You keep another 150 kilograms. More is useless. You said that this can increase the strength of the body. This kind of treasure should be used to increase one's lifespan, not to strengthen one's physical body. Moreover, with the strength of your current physical body, no matter how many primordial stones you have, it won't have much effect on you. I can let my family use it. Hee hee. In this world, other than you, me, and Blood Mary, no one else can use it. Why? For those who are powerful enough, it's a treasure. For those who aren't, it's a deadly poison. How about this? Give me 150 kilograms, and I'll tell you how to increase your lifespan and strengthen your body. Chen Zhao thought for a while and answered, sure. It's very simple. Fuse the origin stone with the small world. The small world can naturally absorb the life force within the primordial stone. That's simple. That's simple, Zhang Tianyi said with certainty. You tricked me of 150 kilograms of primordial stones for such a simple answer. What do you mean by tricking? It's a fair trade. If I figure it out myself, I can figure it out too, Chen Zhao said, gritting his teeth. But you haven't figured it out yet. You said that this is a secret technique of Dragon Tiger Mountain. Yes. It's simple, but it's indeed a secret technique. Zhang Tianyi answered shamelessly. Oh, right. This method can only be used once. After that, it can't be used again. What do you mean it can't be used again? Once the small world fuses with the primordial stone once, it can't be fused a second time. Zhang Tianyi paused. Actually, the small world can fuse with everything in the world. Similarly, there's only one chance. What do you mean by fusing? Your small world has no element, right? Chen Zhao didn't deny it. To Zhang Tianyi, this wasn't a secret. Yes. Everyone's small world has no element at the beginning. Apart from replenishing near-infinite magical power, it has no other use. However, it can be fused with some special power or some treasure to give your small world a special element, Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi said, you've met some enemies who have the power to call the wind and summon the rain, right? Their small world has a special attribute. Chen Zhao nodded subconsciously. Indeed. Indeed. He'd met some enemies who were clearly weaker than him. However, they had the power to summon wind and rain. So, what they lacked was the small world's element. Has your small world never fused with other things? Chen Zhao asked curiously. No, I don't need it. I'm strong enough now. Nothing or anyone can threaten me. Also, in the past few decades, there's nothing worth fusing with, so even if it's a small world with no element, I have absolute power. I'm pissed off by your tone. Let's fight. I can't be bothered with you. Do you want to argue with me or listen to my explanation? Fine, continue. The benefit of fusing with the primordial stone is to increase your lifespan and strengthen your physical strength at the same time, but it will also make you lose the opportunity to obtain other attributes in the future. Zhang Tianyi said, the use of the small world is actually more mysterious and complicated than you think. If it was just increasing his lifespan, Chen Zhao might not be tempted. However, Chen Zhao didn't just have a few primordial stones now. He had more than 1,000 tons. Chen Zhao was very tempted. He could use the stones to strengthen his body. This wasn't an unacceptable condition. Moreover, Chen Zhao didn't need other elements. For example, Chen Zhao's second small world, lightning storm. The effects of lightning storm were shocking. However, it wasn't that useful against someone of the same level. It was even useless. The first owner of lightning storm had used it against Chen Zhao, but it didn't seem to have any effect. What steps do I need to fuse with the stones? Or some secret technique? No. Go figure it out yourself. It's not difficult for you. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Okay. As soon as Chen Zhao hung up, Mary, the 23rd generation's blood, called. Chen Zhao's heart skipped a beat. Zhang Tianyi, that old bastard, really didn't keep his mouth shut. Mr. Chen, do you know why I'm calling you? Not really, 150 kilograms of primordial stones. Name your conditions. Chapter 1925. Blood Mary, you know the value of the stone, right? I know. That's why I want you to name your price. To the 23rd Blood Mary, what did the stone represent? As an old person who knew her destiny, the last thing she wanted to face was time. The 23rd generation Blood Mary thought that she could face death calmly. But when she found out that Chen Zhao had the stone, her heart, which had already been dead silent, began to stir again. Chen Zhao cursed Zhang Tianyi. What can you give me? Chen Zhao asked. Chen Zhao knew the value, and so did 23rd Blood Mary. Chen Zhao had to make sure that he could get the most out of it. He didn't need to think about the ways of the world anymore. The ways of the world couldn't compare to the stone's value. Especially to the 23rd Blood Mary. It was a life-saving treasure. It wasn't more valuable than the stone in the entire world. She could give up everything for this mixed essence stone. Of course, she had to give something that could move Chen Zhao. After all, Chen Zhao wasn't someone she could mess around with. The 23rd Blood Mary was silent for a long time. Chen Zhao patiently waited for Mary's reply on the other end of the phone. It wasn't an easy decision. The 23rd Blood Mary had a lot of collections. There were even things more precious than the mixed essence stone. The Scarlet Church had accumulated over 1,000 years. But there weren't many things that could make the 23rd Blood Mary take out for a trade. After a few minutes, the 23rd Blood Mary finally spoke. I can give you a piece of information. A piece of information. Are you sure? Chen Zhao didn't think that a piece of information could make him pay the stone. Your cultivation is higher than mine and old Zhang's, the 23rd Blood Mary said with certainty. Your lifespan is definitely not low, so the stone's greatest effect might not be attractive to you. Chen Zhao was silent. He didn't admit or deny it. No matter what she said, she couldn't deny the stone's value. So for you, the greatest effect of the primordial stone is to strengthen your body. However, the effect of the primordial stone on strengthening your body is far less obvious than increasing your lifespan. The 23rd Blood Mary's tone gradually calmed down. It seemed that she'd calmed down. Her words were orderly. The information I can give you is about the legendary golden apple tree. Golden apple tree. That's right, isn't your adopted daughter looking for the golden apple? I know where the golden apple tree is, the 23rd Blood Mary said. Since you know where the golden apple tree is, why don't you go get it? The golden apple tree is in the legendary sacred garden, and there is a god guarding the sacred garden. That god is the legendary Hercules, the illegitimate child of Zeus and Alcmene, said Mary. You're not kidding me, are you? No, I'm not joking. The 23rd Blood Mary said seriously, also, the golden apple that your adopted daughter is looking for is pointing to the holy garden. In other words, even without your guidance, my adopted daughter might be able to find it on her own. Anyone who enters the holy garden will be killed. If I didn't warn you, are you sure your adopted daughter would have survived? After all, they are about to face a true god. Fine. Chen Zhao had to admit it. The 23rd Blood Mary's words had indeed helped him avert a tragedy. Also, the golden apple has endless power. It can give you the power you need. In other words, the golden apple will give you whatever magic element you have. So, in comparison, the golden apple tree is more valuable than the primordial stone, the 23rd Blood Mary said. Also, the golden apple tree only bears 3 fruits each time. It only bears fruit once every 1,000 years. You only provided me with information. You didn't bring the golden apple tree to my house. So, I only want your primordial stone. I don't want you to pay more. Chen Zhao took a deep breath. Fine, I agree to this deal. Tomorrow, Zhang Tianyi and I will go to your place, the 23rd Blood Mary said. Both the 23rd generation Blood Mary and Zhang Tianyi attached great importance to this. More seriously than anything else. They even wanted to show up personally. Chen Zhao thought for a moment and suddenly thought of a question. Have you seen Hercules? He asked. Blood Mary of the 23rd generation knew ancient Greek, and her space magic was compiled in ancient Greek. So, Chen Zhao suspected that the 23rd Blood Mary had come into contact with an existence from ancient Greek legends. Yes, I've entered the Holy Garden, the 23rd Blood Mary said without hesitation. I thought I was strong enough. Even if I couldn't defeat Hercules, I could at least protect myself. But I still underestimated the power of the legendary gods. Since they were going to cooperate, the 23rd Blood Mary naturally had to show her sincerity. So, she planned to tell Chen Zhao everything. That was a despairing existence. With just one attack destroyed my little world. It took me several years to rebuild my little world, but it wasn't like I didn't gain anything. I found a spatial magic book in the Holy Garden. Although it couldn't compare to the golden apple, at least it made up for my loss. How did you escape from Hercules? The difference in power is so huge. I really can't think of how you escaped. If it was Chen Zhao, he wouldn't let the 23rd Blood Mary escape if he started a war with her. I'm old, so I treasure my life a lot more, the 23rd Blood Mary said. The 23rd Blood Mary said, I did not confront Hercules directly. With the secret method, I was able to escape unscathed from Hercules. I should be the only human who could escape from him after entering the sacred garden. Being able to escape from the hands of a true god was a great achievement for the 23rd generation Blood Mary. Chen Zhao didn't know what he was feeling right now. A god. Was he finally lucky enough to face a real god? Moreover, the legendary Hercules was also known for his endless power. He seemed to have the same element as Chen Zhao. He didn't know if he could fight Hercules. Even Chen Zhao wasn't confident. The 23rd Blood Mary didn't tell Chen Zhao the location of the Holy Garden. After all, she hadn't gotten the primordial stone yet. She didn't want to take the risk. After all, the stone was too important to her. Chapter 1926. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation Blood Mary both took a day to get to Los Angeles. Chen Zhao also divided the origin stones and gave them to them. Zhang Tianyi started checking in front of Chen Zhao. Old Zhang, your actions clearly show that you don't trust me. We're not that close. Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd Blood Mary didn't tell anyone about this. They didn't even tell their subordinates or disciples. After all, the primordial stone was too important to them. Even if the others couldn't use the mixed essence stone. But who didn't want to live for 30 years? If this matter were to spread, they would never have a day of peace. Chen Zhao would never have a day of peace either. This matter would remain a secret forever. Even when they came to Los Angeles, they were very secretive. After the two old men and old women checked, they confirmed that the primordial stones were correct and the number was correct. Old Zhang, how is this mixed energy stone made? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Nonsense, how would I know? If I knew, I would have produced them in bulk. Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes. There are too many treasures of heaven and earth with unknown origins in this world. Who has the time to think about their origins? I occasionally find primordial origin stones in Europe. The 23rd Blood Mary said, they're all from the Warcraft battlefield from hundreds of years ago or even older, so people speculate that the primordial stones are the fossils of Warcraft beasts. Chen Zhao, you must have more primordial stones, right? No, I really don't, Chen Zhao said helplessly. Anyway, Chen Zhao had decided to play dumb until the end. He absolutely could not admit that he still had a lot. Zhang Tianyi and 23rd didn't believe him. However, they still felt that even if Chen Zhao had more, there wouldn't be many. After all, this thing was precious. Even if he could find primordial stones on a normal day, it would be 1 or 2 kilograms at most. Those who need it are eager, and those who don't need it are discarded. Of course, those people couldn't fuse with the small world like Zhang Tianyi, the 23rd generation, and Chen Zhao. They could also think of other ways. Although he was not as efficient as the three of them. However, everyone longed to enjoy a longer lifespan. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd generation were very happy. Especially the 23rd generation. She was prepared to face the end of her life. Who would have thought that he would be able to escape from death's door? Chen Zhao had actually found the origin stone. Moreover, it could be said to be a very large number of primordial stones. Chen Zhao, where did you get this stone? I fished it out of the sea, Chen Zhao answered casually. You guys merge with the primordial stone here. I want to see the process. I also don't know how to do it. Old Zhang, take this opportunity to demonstrate it to us, said XCI. Zhang Tianyi knew that if he didn't demonstrate it on the spot, he wouldn't be able to leave. To a certain extent, Chen Zhao and the 23rd generation were both unreasonable. Zhang Tianyi pursed his lips. It's not a difficult task. Just watch. Zhang Tianyi demonstrated the process of fusing the primordial stone in front of the two of them. Chen Zhao and the 23rd generation protected Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi held the primordial stone in his hands, and the power of his little heaven and earth began to seep into the primordial stone. Chen Zhao and 23rd observed every detail. Zhang Tianyi was caught off guard. He wholeheartedly devoted himself to the fusion process. With every bit of penetration, the primordial stone would peel off a layer of stone shell. These stone shells had already lost most of their vitality. With a light touch, it dissipated. However, there was still a very thin amount of vitality left. The entire process only took a dozen minutes. Zhang Tianyi finished the fusion. Zhang Tianyi was completely energized. His white hair turned black too. It was as if he'd become 10 years younger. The 23rd generation was the most excited. Zhang Tianyi had indeed become younger. Don't take the primordial stone powder away. It's mine too. Chen Zhao grabbed a handful of the powder. What's this for? It's good for medicine too. Zhang Tianyi carefully put away all the powder. After a few thousand years, it can gather into a primordial stone again. Chen Zhao's face twitched. A few thousand years. Who would have a few thousand years? But after hearing Zhang Tianyi's words, Chen Zhao thought of his super primordial stone. England had once been called the Island of Monsters. Could the super primordial stone be formed from the remains of monsters? After all, humans had killed all the monsters in order to rule England. No one could say for sure how many they'd killed. Zhang Tianyi took out a knife and cut a hole in the middle of his palm. The wound on his palm quickly healed. What a powerful recovery ability! 23rd generation gasped in amazement. It's really effective. Zhang Tianyi was also very satisfied. But Qin Zhao was secretly disdainful. He didn't need the life force in the primordial stone to have such strong recovery. Of course, this was mainly because his cultivation was all in his body. How do I make medicine? Qin Zhao asked. You don't even know the basics, Zhang Tianyi said disdainfully, glancing at Qin Zhao. There's no point in telling you. Let's spar. Qin Zhao was instantly enraged. Whatever. I'll have my disciple give you a recipe later. Then, 23rd generation also started the fusion. At their level, as long as the user didn't purposely hide, the casting process wouldn't escape their eyes. The 23rd generation also took only 10 minutes to complete the fusion process. The two looked at Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao shrugged. Why are you looking at me? Aren't you going to do it now? I don't have any more primordial stones. Qin Zhao didn't want to take out the super primordial stone. He didn't want the two to get greedy. It was too eye-catching. 23rd generation and Zhang Tianyi didn't believe him. Okay, we're leaving. Zhang Tianyi and 23rd generation didn't plan on staying. After all, they'd come secretly, so they had to leave secretly too. After confirming that they'd left, Qin Zhao entered the river map. It would take a long time to completely fuse such a huge amount of primordial stone. 23rd generation and Zhang Tianyi used more than 10 minutes to fuse 150 kilograms of primordial stone. However, Qin Zhao's 1,000 tons of primordial stone needed more than 10,000 times more time than them. Therefore, he had to enter the river map to fuse. Of course, Qin Zhao didn't forget Zhang Tianyi's words. He collected the fused powder. Qin Zhao realized that his fusion speed was very fast at the beginning. It was mainly because his small world had completely covered the primordial stone. However, as the stone shell of the primordial stone kept peeling off, the speed gradually slowed down. Chapter 1927. Qin Zhao could feel the life force contained in his small world. It was the purest essence of life force. Qin Zhao started absorbing the life force into his body. He felt that all his cells were filled with power. His skin also started oozing dirt. This wasn't the first time Qin Zhao had cleansed his tendons and veins. This time, Qin Zhao felt like he had been reborn. The life force was continuously reconstructing Qin Zhao's body, reconstructing every part and structure of his body. Just then, a key hidden in his spatial ring suddenly flew out. Qin Zhao saw that he'd gotten this key from Murphy's mother. The key instantly sank into Qin Zhao's body. Then, Qin Zhao's body started disintegrating uncontrollably. Qin Zhao paled in fright. His mind was still very clear. But he couldn't stop the process. The key disappeared after entering Qin Zhao's body. This key was the culprit for disintegrating Qin Zhao's body. In the end, Qin Zhao was only left with his soul and the yin-yang fish in the center of his soul. The surroundings were filled with a bloody mist formed by Qin Zhao's disintegrating body. Suddenly, the bloody mist started gathering toward Qin Zhao's soul again. The reconstruction process was even more thorough than before. The entire process wasn't under Qin Zhao's control. Qin Zhao was just passively enduring the entire process. Qin Zhao had already activated 3 keys. One was the golden key. Its ability was to allow Qin Zhao to evolve under the influence of the environment. The second was the soul key. It allowed Chen Zhao to absorb the soul of his mortal enemy and fill in the flaws of his own soul. At the same time, it made his willpower and spiritual power stronger. The third was the blood-colored key. Of course, it could also be called the God's key. The blood-colored key allowed Chen Zhao to cross the gap between man and God. It allowed Chen Zhao to touch the realm of God. At that time, Chen Zhao understood that each key had a certain ability. It seemed to be able to unlock some kind of restriction in his body. Then what about the fourth key? What effect did it have? What did it mean? The body reconstruction process lasted for a few days. He couldn't do anything in the next few days. He couldn't understand the changes in his body. During this process, Chen Zhao's small world had gathered a large amount of life force. It poured endlessly into Chen Zhao's body. Chen Zhao's body was like a bottomless abyss, greedily devouring every drop of life force. When Chen Zhao's body was reconstructed, he could finally move. He wanted to know what had happened to his body. His speed and strength had all been greatly improved. However, he still didn't understand any substantial changes. What exactly had changed? Finally, Chen Zhao's body and even the small world were full of vitality. He could no longer fuse with any primordial stones. At this time, there was still less than half of the primordial chaos stone left, which was estimated to be about 400 to 500 tons. Chen Zhao was still confused. What had changed about him? Each key had a unique function. After activating the soul key, he didn't understand its effects for a long time. The blood-red key was also activated by accident. He really wanted to know what the function of the fourth key was. Chen Zhao kept trying to see what changes had happened to his body. However, apart from the increase in strength and speed, it seemed that the yin-yang fish had also grown a lot stronger. Chen Zhao calmed himself down and sat back down. The fourth key was activated when the body was reconstructed. This meant that the condition to activate the fourth key was that the body had to undergo a drastic change or mutation. The function of the fourth key was probably related to the body. Something that he didn't understand must have happened to his body. Was the increase in strength and speed related to the fourth key? It might be related to the fourth key. Or maybe it was because he'd absorbed the vitality in the primordial chaos stone. Chen Zhao had an idea. He put away the primordial chaos stone and its powder. After leaving the river map, he immediately called Zhang Tianyi. "Old Zhang, where are you now? I just left your house not long ago. I'm still in the car. Where do you think I am? Come back for a while. I need to talk to you," Chen Zhao said. "You're not trying to kill me, are you? Did I accidentally learn some of your secrets, and you want to kill me to silence me? Stop bullshitting." Chen Zhao was speechless at Zhang Tianyi's strange thinking. A while later, Zhang Tianyi and 23rd came back. "Why?" Zhang Tianyi asked. "See if I've changed." Chen Zhao felt that he couldn't feel it because he'd been blinded by his own worldview. As bystanders, Zhang Tianyi and 23rd might be able to see the changes more clearly. Changes? Zhang Tianyi and 23rd studied Chen Zhao seriously. Zhang Tianyi poked Chen Zhao's chest and said in an unhappy tone, "You really have the primordial chaos stone. Your body has strengthened quite a bit." Chen Zhao pushed Zhang Tianyi's finger away. "I'm not talking about that. Do you feel any other changes other than your body becoming stronger? Let me sense and we'll know." 23rd Gen cast a perception spell on Chen Zhao. But the next moment, he frowned again. "What's wrong?" Perception failed. 23RD's face was full of confusion. "Your body seems to be immune to my perception spell." "My body is absolutely immune to low-level spells," Chen Zhao said. I'm not using a normal perception spell. I'm using God's vision, an advanced spell. With my power, the effect is 10 times stronger than a normal spiritualist's. Chen Zhao was slightly stunned. He looked at his body. His magic resistance had increased greatly too. In the past, Chen Zhao could only resist spells to a certain extent. Now, he could resist most spells. Since even God's vision can't work on you, I can't do anything either. Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi shrugged. I have an idea. For example, give me a few drops of your blood. I'll go back and study it. Maybe I can understand your changes. Then forget it. The last thing a spiritualist wanted was to give a part of their body to someone else. Not even a few drops of blood. Many spells were released through blood. Even though Chen Zhao thought he was very powerful, he didn't dare to take this risk. Chen Zhao, where did your changes come from? Why do you feel like you've changed? Chapter 1928. Whatever, it's fine. Chen Zhao wouldn't tell them his secret. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to get an answer from them. He could only slowly explore it himself in the future. After chasing the two away, Chen Zhao started studying again. Unfortunately, he didn't have any clues. Chen Zhao's constitution had improved in all aspects, so he needed another round of adaptation. The improvement in his foundation also led to improvements in other aspects. Giant spirit transformation could replenish more spiritual qi. Moreover, Chen Zhao's clones had finally multiplied from 8 to 16. Avatar was a very special spell because each avatar possessed the full power of the main body. Thus, the stronger Chen Zhao was, the more celestial power he used. Even after learning the complete version of cloning, Chen Zhao had been maintaining 8 clones. Even though his power had increased by who knew how many times, the number of clones didn't increase much. Unless Chen Zhao's original strength was maintained and his celestial power doubled, he wouldn't be able to double the number of clones. After absorbing the life force from the primordial stone, Chen Zhao had improved in all aspects. Even his celestial power had increased greatly. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. Chen Zhao glanced at the number. It was Klaus. Hi, Klaus. President. How are you guys in Africa? It's fun. We live by the river and can fish for crocodiles every day. You're definitely not calling me to report your work, right? Usually, it was West who reported to Chen Zhao. Klaus rarely contacted Chen Zhao. Do you remember that I told you last time that I have a normal girlfriend? Oh. I do. Teacher, right? Yes, Klaus answered. She just called me and asked if I had money. She wants to borrow money from you. Do you suspect that something's wrong with her? No. Before I got together with her, I already investigated her identity. She's just a normal girl. Then what do you mean? I suspect that she's in trouble, Klaus said. If it was just some money, Klaus didn't mind. After all, he had a lot of savings. Klaus was worried that his girlfriend was in trouble. Got it. Give me your girlfriend's information, Chen Zhao said. I'll help you take a look. Since the members of the association were out on missions, Chen Zhao naturally had to take care of their families. Chen Zhao called Portia over and told her to watch the baby. Chen Zhao, on the other hand, went straight to Klaus' girlfriend's place. Chen Zhao read a document as he drove. Nellie Wenlancy, 29 years old, primary school teacher. Nellie Wenlancy's house was in an ordinary neighborhood. Chen Zhao went to Nellie Wenlancy's house and knocked. A while later, Nellie Wenlancy opened the door and looked at Chen Zhao. Hello, sir. What can I do for you? Hello, I'm a friend of Klaus. He said that you might have some trouble, so I came to see if I can help. Ah. Did Klaus summon you? Ah, come in and sit. Klaus wanted Nellie Lancey to listen to Qin Zhao's arrangements. Ms. Nellie, I'll arrange a safe place for you first, Qin Zhao said. Nellie Lancey nodded. Then she asked, what about my job? You can only ask for leave for now. Chapter 1929. Qin Zhao brought Nellie Lancey to the headquarters. It was empty. Only Aduz, Jigs, and his unconscious wife were here. You can stay here temporarily until Klaus comes back, Qin Zhao said, pointing at the headquarters. As long as it's empty, you can choose any room you want. Aduz ran over. President, who's this? Klaus's girlfriend. She's in some trouble, so she's staying here temporarily. Hello, miss, Aduz said. I'm Aduz, the security guard here. You can tell me if you have any trouble. Nellie Lancey looked at the headquarters before her. She was a bit dizzy. When Qin Zhao brought her here, they'd passed a forest path. She'd been worried that Qin Zhao had evil intentions. However, Qin Zhao hadn't done anything bad to her. As for the headquarters of the association and the tall tower of trials next to the headquarters, they all made her a little confused. Where exactly is this? Miss Neri, Qin Zhao said. I don't plan on restricting your freedom of movement, but if you want to go out, you better inform me. After all, I promised Klaus to take good care of you. Thank you. Then I'll leave first. Aduz, help Miss Neri choose a room. Okay, Miss Neri. Please come in. Nellie Lancey followed Aduz into the headquarters. When Nellie Lancey walked into a room, she suddenly saw what was inside through the half-closed door. A man stood in front of a huge container, and inside the container was a naked woman. Ah! Nellie Lancey screamed in fright. Aduz was also shocked. What's wrong? Inside. Inside. Who are you? What are you doing to me? Nellie Lancey thought that Qin Zhao had brought her here to soak her in the container too. At this time, Nellie Lancey's imagination had already started to run wild and fill in the blanks. Just then, Jigs opened the door and walked out. Mr. Aduz, who's this lady? She's a family member of one of our members, Aduz said. She might have misunderstood something. Jigs looked at Nellie Lancey. Miss, did you see my wife in the healing container and think we're performing some evil ritual? Isn't it? Nellie Lancey leaned against the wall and stared at Jigs and Aduz in fear. No, the one inside is my wife. She was injured and is receiving treatment in that container. Nellie Lancey looked at Aduz and Gigs with a skeptical gaze. After a moment of hesitation, she plucked up her courage and looked into the room again. At the same time, she also saw some instruments beside the container. One of the screens looked like a heart rate monitor. What happened to her? Gigs did not want to talk about that nightmarish night. Don't ask. It's not a happy memory for Ziggs. Aduz said, there are empty rooms in the past. You can stay in whichever room you want. Nellie Lancey chose a room next to Jigs and then Aduz left. Nellie Lancey realized that Aduz indeed had no intention of restricting her movements. He did not even take away her phone. After some thought, Nellie Lancey decided to call Klaus. This place gave her a strange feeling. She could not tell what exactly was strange. Anyway, Nellie Lancey just felt strange. Klaus, can you tell me what you do? Your friend, Mr. Qin, brought me to a place called the headquarters. Klaus was silent for a moment before saying, "All my secrets are there. You can learn as much as you can. If you know enough, Aduz will tell you about me and the secrets there. I can only tell you that my friend and I aren't bad people. At least, we won't hurt you. If you don't want to stay there, or if you don't want to accept me keeping my secrets, then leave. But before I come back, please accept my protection." Klaus's tone remained calm and unperturbed. Klaus had already considered this when he asked Chen Zhao to do this. "Okay, I understand." Nellie Wenlancy already understood what Klaus meant. There were some secrets hidden here. It was related to Klaus and the other people here. Klaus would not stop her from exploring this place. Nellie Wenlancy first went to Jiggs and Maev's room. Nellie Wenlancy knocked on the door. "Hello, can I come in?" Jiggs turned to look at Nellie Wenlancy. "Hello, please come in." When Nellie Wenlancy entered the room, the first thing she did was to observe Maev in the container. "Mr. Jiggs, your wife. Are you sure she's fine soaking like this?" Jiggs's eyes were lifeless, but his tone was still firm. "If you knew about Maev's previous injuries, you wouldn't have such a question. Even now, there were still many marks on Maev's body. Why didn't you send her to the hospital? The hospital can't save her. Are you sure it's okay here?" "I'm sure." Jiggs nodded calmly. It wasn't a pleasant memory. He was even more unwilling to share that night with others. "It's dinner time," Jiggs said. "Let's go to the restaurant." "Is there food here?" "Everything is provided here." Jiggs smiled faintly. This is their company's headquarters. It's a combination of office and living. When they reached the restaurant, Jiggs said, "It's a buffet. Help yourself. So much food. Just the two of us. Aduz eats here too. That's only 3. The food here can feed at least 100 people, right? They're used to it." "Oh, right. There's a chef here. They definitely want to eat too." Jiggs was used to this place and knew all the secrets hidden here. In fact, the food was also provided to the people in the dungeon. The food here was good. Nellie Wenlancy had a good dinner. "I feel like the chef here is better than those big restaurants." "Of course the chef here is good." Jiggs smiled. The chef here was an old ghost. Before he died, he'd once been a chef at the White House State Banquet. Jiggs only learned about it later. Just then, Aduz pushed a dining cart over. Nellie Wenlancy saw that Aduz had brought a lot of food. He seemed to be sending it somewhere. "Is there anyone else here other than us?" Even if it was a conventional contract, it would be written in terms that were hard to understand at first glance. Chen Zhao looked at the contract. "Why is the purchase amount blank?" "Mr. Chen, this is because you didn't tell me how much you want to buy, so the purchase amount is temporarily empty. After you sign the contract, we will fill in the purchase amount. Then how can I be sure that you won't write down a random number?" "Mr. Chen, we're a big company. We won't fill in a random number." "I see. Okay then." Chen Zhao signed his name and pressed his fingerprint on it. After confirming Chen Zhao's signature, Audis' smile grew wider. "Thank you, Mr. Chen. I believe that we will have a pleasant cooperation. Mr. Chen, how do you plan on paying this money?" "This is the check." Chen Zhao pushed the check to Audis. When Audis saw the check, his face was full of smiles. But when he saw the name on the back, his expression froze again. "Why is it a registered check? Isn't that obvious?" Smiling, Chen Zhao looked at Audis. "If it's an anonymous check, I won't be able to get anything." Does Mr. Otis think that there's something wrong with my check? No, nothing. Otis still didn't change his expression. Okay, since we're done with the contract, I'll leave first. Goodbye. Goodbye. Just as Chen Zhao was about to leave, he stopped and turned back to look at Otis. Mr. Chen, is there anything else? I suddenly remembered that you haven't given me the copy of the contract. I almost forgot. Please wait. Otis gave Chen Zhao a copy of the contract. Otis didn't care what Chen Zhao would do after getting the copy. There were far fewer traps in this contract. Almost every clause had a trap. Of course, it would be best if the copy was lost. After Chen Zhao left with the copy, Otis made a call. Otis always liked to use this method for big clients like Chen Zhao. First, he snatched the copy of the contract. As long as the client lost the copy, he had 100 ways to swallow the money. Chen Zhao left the building and called Alex. Alex, I've already signed the contract. Are you sure that I won't lose the money? Of course. I can guarantee that not only will it not be lost, but I'll also make these scammers pay me until they go bankrupt. Okay, then I'll wait for your good news. Oh, right. If they're involved in attacking clients and cause financial or physical damage, will the compensation increase? Sure, but you better provide a diagnosis report. I don't have a diagnosis report, but my sports car will be damaged in the attack. That's fine too, Alex replied. You recorded your conversation just now, right? Yes, it's all recorded. Then it's even better. Chen Zhao drove his sports car past an intersection. Just then, a large truck ran a red light and crashed toward Chen Zhao's car. Chen Zhao glanced at the truck. He didn't try to dodge and just let it hit him. Boom! Chen Zhao's car was sent flying. The truck driver planned to escape. However, Chen Zhao burst the truck's tires and it flipped over at the intersection. Chen Zhao alighted from the now useless sports car. Seeing that the truck driver was unconscious, he took out his phone. Hey, David, I'm in trouble. Chapter 1931. David had brought people over. The first thing they saw was the tragic scene of the car accident. However, when David saw that Chen Zhao was unharmed and that Chen Zhao was carrying a wounded person, he heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at Chen Zhao's annoying face, David went up and punched Chen Zhao. Tell me, what's going on? First of all, one of my friend's family members was cheated by a financial fraud company, and then I was also cheated, and I was cheated up to $2 million. After that group of people cheated me of $2 million, they planned to kill me. I think you can dig out some useful confessions from them. David stared at Chen Zhao. Were you really tricked? David knew Chen Zhao very well. Chen Zhao would never buy financial products. Chen Zhao never touched things he wasn't familiar with. Finance was exactly what Chen Zhao wasn't familiar with. Looking at Chen Zhao's expression, he wasn't angry at being tricked at all. It was a smile that people would only have when they fell into his trap. Okay, David said. Come with me to record the statement. I'm not the suspect, I'm the victim. You're worse than the criminals. I think I might be injured. I need to go to the hospital for an injury evaluation, Chen Zhao suddenly said, clutching his chest in pain. Are you serious? David couldn't tell if Chen Zhao was serious or not. Chen Zhao's shoulders shook slightly and dislocated. Then, he said in a calm tone, if you can submit an injury assessment report afterwards, I can also go back with you directly to make a statement. Do you have a deep grudge against those people? David looked at Chen Zhao with a bitter smile. Chen Zhao stabbed 5 fingers into his chest. David was completely speechless. He'd taken strengthening potions before, so his recovery was many times stronger than normal people's. However, he couldn't hurt himself like Chen Zhao. It's not about hatred. The people who were tricked are my subordinates' families. It's a matter of principle, Chen Zhao said. Also, you don't have to pity them. With their crimes, even the death penalty is not enough. You should be glad that I didn't throw them off the roof. Okay, I understand. But even if you caused the injury yourself, can't you make it more presentable? A finger piercing through the chest, no matter how I look at it, doesn't look like it was caused by a car accident. When he arrived at the police station, he saw that Sharon was still there. Chen, what did you do today? Sharon looked at Chen Zhao with evil intentions. What's the point of us taxpayers paying civil servants like you? Chen Zhao retorted. Usually, whenever I do something small, you'll appear before me. But now, I got into a car accident on the street and you're nowhere to be seen. Car accident? You don't look hurt. Shalon looked him up and down. Chen Zhao pulled open his collar, revealing the wound on his chest. Look, I'm hurt. Sharon didn't know what was going on and was shocked. How did you get hurt so badly? Why don't you go to the hospital? Just then, David walked in with a document. Don't mind him. He did it himself. David didn't avoid Sarah. He took out a document and said, so far, we've found some clues. That big truck was stolen, and the driver who hit your car wasn't the owner, but a gambler. In addition, the company you mentioned can be said to be guilty of many crimes. As long as the gambler is willing to talk, it'll be easy to get someone from that company. The driver isn't willing to talk. That's a bit troublesome. Let me talk to the gambler. You can't use violence against him, David said. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. At least, I won't use violence in the police station. Chen Zhao entered the interrogation room where the driver was. After only 3 minutes, Chen Zhao came out. The driver was a gangster and a gambler. But he was still a normal person. The person he was facing was a spiritualist, and a rich one at that. Unless he had 10 times the willpower of a normal person, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Otherwise, it wouldn't be difficult for a spiritualist to make a normal person talk. Intimidation, threats, direct shock, or even magic could easily destroy a normal person's mind. All of them could easily destroy a normal person's mind. Okay, he's willing to talk. David knew that Chen Zhao must have used some unusual methods. So, he didn't ask about the entire process. After entering the interrogation room, David didn't waste too much time either. He'd never interrogated a suspect so smoothly before. The entire process was too easy. The suspect answered all his questions. When he came out, Chen Zhao was sitting at the desk in the police station, chatting with a few police officers. He even proudly showed off his injuries. David was even more speechless. He went up and patted Chen Zhao's shoulder heavily. David, be gentle. I'm hurt. The guy already told us everything. Okay, then let's arrest him. Also, my lawyer is almost here. What? You called the lawyer again? There were all kinds of enemies in the world. Police and lawyers were undoubtedly enemies too. Lawyers were the last people the police wanted to deal with. I can't help it. I'm not good at this. It's not your first time either. What I'm good at is letting the professionals handle it. David could only go and arrest them. This time, the evidence was solid, so he didn't have to worry. Moreover, these people were guilty of the most heinous crimes. The police had been meticulously collecting evidence of their crimes. Now that the opportunity was delivered to them, the police had no reason to reject it. Alex came with a group of bandit lawyers. There was a professional term in the legal world, bandit lawyer. It referred to lawyers who liked to exaggerate cases, increase compensation, and increase the number of crimes. This type of lawyer was the bandit lawyer. For example, the Chinese man who'd been dragged off a United Airlines flight 2 years ago had received tens of millions of dollars in compensation and hired a bandit lawyer. Because of that incident, many Chinese people became loyal customers of United Airlines. Even Chen Zhao had gone to apply for a VIP account. They all hoped that they could get the same treatment as the Chinese man and be dragged off the plane. Every law firm had a group of bandit lawyers. Moreover, bandit lawyers had always been loved by their clients. This was because they could always get the most out of their clients. This time, Alex didn't just bring lawyers from her law firm. She also brought some famous bandit lawyers in LA. This was Chen Zhao's request. He didn't care about the price. If he could sentence these people to death, he didn't want a life sentence. Chapter 1932. Audis and all the higher-ups in the company were sent to the police station. They were all still dumbfounded. When Audis saw Chen Zhao, he was clearly stunned. "Mr. Chen, why are you here?" Audis asked, confused. "I was in a car accident. The perpetrator said something that pissed me off." Chen Zhao smiled at Audis. "Mr. Chen, could there be some kind of misunderstanding?" Audis's face darkened. "I don't care if it's a misunderstanding or not. I just need an answer. As long as it's related to this case, I won't let them leave prison alive." Chen Zhao stood up and patted Audis' shoulder. "Just like my old enemy, I don't care how much I spend. I'm willing to spend $1 million or $10 million, or even more." "Oh, good luck." After Chen Zhao left, David walked over. "Mr. Audis, you're in big trouble. I'm waiting for my lawyer. He's not here. I refuse to answer any questions." Of course. If the prosecution was a commoner or the police, the lawyer could indeed put a lot of pressure on the prosecution. But now, the prosecution was someone even richer than them. As for the suspect, he had a lot of bad records. The police also had a lot of evidence. In Audis's interrogation room, his lawyer hadn't arrived yet. Chen Zhao's legal team came in. Without saying anything, each of them carried a large number of documents and started reading them before Audis. This caused the atmosphere in the interrogation room to become extremely tense. "Police? Who are they?" "Oh, they're lawyers, but not yours. I haven't received a summons from the court yet. They can't appear here. I want them to leave immediately. If they're here, I refuse to answer any questions." "They're reading the victim's charges," David said, unconcerned. Actually, the lawyers of both parties couldn't meet or interact with the other party's representatives. However, there were too many loopholes in this kind of thing. "Mr. Audis, according to our client's request, we're going to sue you. The charges include attempted murder, causing serious injury, intentionally destroying valuable property, huge financial fraud, and inciting others to rob. There's also civil compensation, including our client's financial losses. The total amount is over $200 million. "What? You're framing me." "Whether it's a false accusation or not is up to the court to decide," the leading lawyer said. "I don't have $200 million. I can't even take out $2 million. Audis was not the leader of the scam, but one of the higher-ups. Even the head of the fraud group couldn't take out $200 million. He didn't even have $20 million. The total amount of money they had swindled was less than $20 million. That's your problem, but we can guarantee that the compensation will be decided. All of your assets will be used as compensation. Even after you get out of prison, you'll have nothing. You can't do this. Police, they're threatening us. Otis panicked. The police will also file a criminal complaint against you. You will be sent to court for second-degree murder, endangering public safety, threatening, and intentional injury, David said indifferently. At this moment, the appointed lawyer arrived at the scene. This lawyer was not Otis's personal lawyer, but a lawyer specially assigned to him by the police. Most of the time, this kind of lawyer was just going through the motions. After seeing the group of people in the room, he understood the situation. This lawyer had already given up on Otis in his heart. For a case like this with concrete evidence, all he could do was follow the procedure. If Otis needed it, he could ask the judge for leniency. That was pretty much all he could do. Of course, considering that it wasn't just the police who filed the lawsuit, it also involved a super tycoon. Then the pleading step could be skipped. With all these crimes added up, even if Otis could get out of prison, it would be 30 years of loss. This lawyer admired Otis. He even scammed a super tycoon. From all the signs, it was obvious that this super tycoon was purposely messing with him. Just the cost of a team of bandit lawyers in the interrogation room was very high. These bandit lawyers were not comparable to a lawyer like him who specialized in public security, procuratorial, and judicial work. Their efficiency and professionalism, as well as their fees, were all 10 times or even tens of times more than a normal lawyer. Of course, as long as they could control the case, the profits would also be high. Since everyone is here, let's start the interrogation, David said expressionlessly. I want them to leave, Otis said as he pointed at the bandit lawyers. The appointed lawyer was in a difficult position. He didn't want to go against these bandit lawyers. The name of the bandit lawyers was notorious in the industry. Of course, compared to their notorious reputation, they were much more professional than their peers. Mr. Otis, are you sure you want to expel us from here? If you insist, I can guarantee that you will never be able to leave prison, the leading lawyer said. You're threatening. You all saw it, Otis yelled agitatedly. The appointed lawyer sighed and said, Mr. Otis, please calm down. The current situation is very disadvantageous to you. I think you should cooperate with them and not fight them. That won't do you any good. What do you mean? Are you my lawyer or not? If you're not satisfied with my work, you can ask for a new lawyer, but it doesn't matter who comes. The plaintiff has already submitted a financial loss report and injury report to the court. The financial loss is more than $200 million, and that injury report can add at least 3 years to your sentence. At this moment, Otis realized that the entire world was standing against him. Even his lawyer was the same. He had no intention of helping him at all. If I cooperate, what can I get? At least you won't die in prison, the leading lawyer said. Cough, cough. David coughed. Chen Zhao's legal team was too explicit with their words. From what I know, the plaintiff's assets are more than $10 billion, David said. I think you should cooperate. Chapter 1933. Chen Zhao had already gone home. There was basically nothing for him to do here. Anyway, Chen Zhao would let Alex handle everything. Anyway, Chen Zhao's request was for every main member of the scam to go to jail for 20 to 30 years. He would also squeeze all of their assets dry. Everyone said that evil people would be tortured by evil people. Chen Zhao didn't mind being that evil person. The next day, Chen Zhao received a call from Otis. Otis wanted to talk to him. After one night, Otis probably understood something. Would a super rich person buy a $2 million fund? It was obviously impossible. Chen Zhao was clearly coming for them. The more Otis thought about it, the more afraid he became. Otis was going to be transferred to the prison in his district today. So, he wanted to meet Chen Zhao now. He wanted to find out more or make some deals. When Chen Zhao saw Otis, he no longer had any shrewdness. He looked at Chen Zhao with haggard eyes. Mr. Chen, I want to know if we've offended you in any way. Chen Zhao smiled. My subordinate's family bought a fund from you. Unfortunately, my subordinate isn't in L, so I have to take care of this. Otis was helpless. Who's your subordinate's family? I can refund him the money. It's too late. When I got involved, I didn't plan on resolving this peacefully. Smiling, Chen Zhao looked at Otis. You and your accomplices must go to jail. Chen Zhao was confident, but he wouldn't tell Otis who Neri Lancy was. Otis' face darkened. Gritting his teeth, he said, Mr. Chen, do you have to make it so ugly? Are you threatening me that you have the power of the underworld? If it's violence, that's what I'm best at. Trust me, you have no chance of winning. Mr. Chen, you have family, right? Chen Zhao looked at Otis. Do you? Otis didn't speak. Clearly, he realized that he'd said something stupid. Okay, cooperate with the police. If you can get away with it within the scope of the rules, then I have nothing to say. But if you think that violence can solve the problem, I don't mind competing with you in violence. Chen Zhao stood up. If you think threatening me with my family works, then I can have my family follow 10 or 20 bodyguards. But what about your family? Do you have that much money? Otis' face paled. He realized that he really couldn't do anything to Chen Zhao. Nellie Lancy stretched her body. The conditions here were indeed very good. Not only was the food and accommodation good, but the environment was also quite good. Nellie Lancy walked around the place yesterday. She was a little confused about what this place was for. There was some equipment here, and it looked like a research facility. There were also warehouses and workshops. Nellie Lancy got up to wash up and change. At this time, the sound of a car came from outside the window. The sound of Chen Zhao's sports car was quite loud. Nellie Lancy went downstairs to welcome him. Hello, Miss Neri. Mr. Chen, you can call me Lancy. Okay, you can call me Chen too, or you can call me President like Klaus does, Chen Zhao said. President? Then what exactly is this place for? You can ask Klaus if you have any questions, Chen Zhao said. You just need to know that Klaus and I aren't doing anything illegal. If it's not illegal, why do you have to be so mysterious? Klaus will have to explain that to you too. Chen Zhao entered the headquarters and Nellie Lancy followed behind. Chen Zhao went to Jig's room. Jigs had been sharing a room with Maeve. It was convenient to take care of her. When Chen Zhao knocked on Jig's room, Jigs had just woken up. Mr. Chen. Yes, Maeve needs to change her water. Also, I need to give her a checkup. Okay. Chen Zhao and Jigs started operating the equipment. In the past few days, Jigs had gradually familiarized himself with how to use the equipment. Do you need my help? Nellie Lancy asked. No, just the two of us are enough. After the equipment was turned off, Chen Zhao and Jigs lifted Maeve out of the container. Nellie Lancy watched from the side. Mr. Chen, are you a doctor? Yes, but I don't have a license, Chen Zhao said. Mr. Chen, Maeve opened her eyes yesterday, Jig said. Did you talk to her? I'm not sure if she's awake. Her injuries are basically out of danger now. You don't have to soak her in the container anymore. As for her psychological problems, you'll have to help her. During this period of time, Jigs had personally witnessed Maev's unrecognizable body gradually recovering from its previous state. Some obvious injuries were also recovering during the soaking. Therefore, he had absolute trust in Chen Zhao now. After checking Maev's injuries, Chen Zhao met Jig's gaze. After a moment of silence, he said, "She should have woken up a few days ago, but she doesn't want to talk. Or rather, she doesn't want to face reality." "Then, what about now?" Chen Zhao nodded. Maev was actually awake right now. Jigs couldn't control his emotions anymore. He knelt by the window. "Maev, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. It's all because of my uselessness. Let's go out first. You guys talk." After Chen Zhao and Nellie Wenlancy walked out of the room, they could hear people talking inside. A moment later, Jigs hurriedly ran to Chen Zhao and Nellie Wenlancy. "Miss Neri, can I borrow a set of your women's clothes?" "Huh? Of course." A while later, Jigs helped Maev to Chen Zhao. Maev's injuries were 80% healed. The only problems now were the scars on her skin and her psychological trauma. Maev's face was pale. After all, she'd been soaking in the water for almost 20 days. Her limbs were also very weak. Actually, she'd woken up earlier than Chen Zhao had expected. "Mr. Chen, thank you for saving me that night." Maev's voice was weak. "I'm sorry that I couldn't get there earlier that day." "No, it's not your fault. No one could have predicted that." "It's my fault. I couldn't protect Maev well." "Maev, I can call you that, right?" "Of course." Maev nodded slightly. "As an outsider, I still hope that you can let go of the past. Jigs has been watching over you without rest. It's not a beautiful memory, but it's not enough for you to ruin your life." Chapter 1934. Chen Zhao wasn't someone who knew how to comfort others. He only felt sympathy for Maev. He didn't have much personal feelings for her. That was all he could say. Plus, he wasn't that familiar with Maev. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, Maev nodded slightly. Nellie Wenlancy didn't know what exactly had happened. But looking at Maev's injuries, she could more or less understand how hurt she was. "Jigs, I'll prescribe some medicine for Maev. Some for oral use, and some for external application. You'll be in charge of applying the medicine on Maev. Also, if there are any changes in Maev's condition, you can call me." "Okay, got it. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving," Chen Zhao said. "Miss Neri, Maev has just recovered. Can you accompany Maev for a while?" Sure, no problem." "Oh, right. Ms. Wenlancy, your problem has been solved. Those people will go to jail soon. You should get your money back soon." Nellie Wenlancy was surprised that Chen Zhao had solved the problem so quickly. Nellie Wenlancy could tell that they weren't bad people. Aduz helped Maev find a wheelchair. Nellie Wenlancy pushed Maev for a walk beside the man-made lake. "The scenery here is really good, but the weather these 2 days is a bit bad," Nellie Wenlancy said regretfully. "If the weather is good, it'll be even more beautiful." "There's never a good day here," Maev said. "Maev, let bygones be bygones." Nellie Wenlancy thought that Maev was hinting at her feelings. "I'm serious. The weather here has always been like this." "Haven't you always been? I've been awake for more than 10 days. Every day, Jigs opens the curtains and windows to let in fresh air. It hasn't rained in the past 10 days, right? I don't remember having more than 10 consecutive cloudy days. That's the only cloudy days I'm talking about." Nellie Lancey looked up and realized that the dark clouds in the sky were indeed only covering the nearby area. They didn't cover a large area. Weird, Nellie Lancey murmured in confusion. What's this phenomenon? It's not natural. Then what? If I said it was controlled, would you believe me? Miss Maeve. Nellie Lancey wondered if Maeve was mentally unstable. Otherwise, why would he say such illogical words? Do you think I'm insane? No, Nellie Lancey quickly denied. It's natural for you to think that way. Normal people wouldn't take my words seriously. Nellie Lancey looked at Maeve in confusion. Maeve's words weren't messy, but rather clear. Although I've been unconscious all this time, I wasn't actually sleeping, Maeve said. Nellie Lancey was even more confused. Maeve's words always sounded mysterious. Not sleeping. What are we going to do then? I'm listening to all the sounds here. There are many secrets hidden here. I still don't understand. I didn't understand it at first, Maeve said. Mr. Chin said that there are many secrets here. Let's go back to the headquarters. The wind here is a little cold. Oh, okay. Back at the headquarters, Maeve suddenly said, there's an elevator over there. Nellie Lancey didn't understand, but she still followed her request and pushed Maeve to the elevator. What's wrong with this elevator? This is the elevator to the basement. Basement? Yes. Curious, Nellie Lancey pushed Maeve into the elevator. And then? Lower 3 floors. When they reached the 3rd floor, the elevator door opened. Nellie Lancey realized that there were people down there. There were many glass houses here too. A dozen of them had people locked inside. Nellie Lancey was shocked. What's going on? Who are they? Prisoners. Mr. Chen's prisoners. Nellie Lancey gulped. Would she encounter any danger after entering this place? If Qin Zhao knew that she was here, would he lock her up too? Or was it to silence them? Are you scared? Maeve asked softly. This is illegal detention, right? Nellie Lancey asked uncertainly. These people aren't under the protection of the law, Maeve said. Nellie Lancey pushed Maeve to a glass house and looked at the prisoner inside. The prisoner was an old man. He glanced at the 2 women outside and then calmly lay back on the bed to watch TV. The glass house wasn't bad. It wasn't big, only a dozen square meters, but there was an independent bathroom. There was also a single bed, a single sofa, a table, and a TV hanging on the wall. Nellie Lancey also realized that the book on the table had strange words on the cover. She actually couldn't recognize which country it was from. All the prisoners here were very calm. Some of them didn't even bother to look at the 2 women outside. Who are they? Nellie Lancey asked. When Nellie Lancey pushed Maeve past a room, she suddenly saw a man standing in the floor-to-ceiling window. The man's eyes were lifeless and had dark circles around them. He looked like he hadn't slept in decades, but he kept staring at Nellie Lancey and Maeve. Nellie Lancey was a bit dazed. She stared at the man inside. Ah! Nellie Lancey suddenly felt pain on the back of her hand. Maeve had pinched her hand. Don't stare at his eyes. Just then, a white-haired old man in the next room said, Are you new people? What happened to me? Nellie Lancey didn't understand. But she also felt that something was wrong. She'd actually stared at a strange man's eyes for so long. Off it, you're too meddlesome. I almost succeeded. The man who'd almost bewitched Nellie Lancey with his eyes said unhappily, Don't you want to escape? I'm different from you. We'll only be locked up here for 3 years. It's already been half a year. If you escape from here without permission, you'll have to face that man. Do you really think you can escape from here? I can't beat him, but as long as I leave this room, no one can stop me no matter where I go. Chapter 1935. Offit glanced at the two women outside the glass room. This isn't a place you should be. Offit was in a good mood. After all, she and her partner weren't sentenced to life imprisonment. Let's go, Neri. It's indeed dangerous here. Aren't they locked inside? Why is it dangerous? Even if they're locked inside, they're still dangerous. The glass could block most attacks. But these people weren't normal people. The consequences of underestimating them were severe. Even Maev only understood a little. Maev didn't know what situation she was in either. She could hear everyone's conversation in the entire headquarters. Of course, that included the people in the dungeon. It seemed that the barriers of the buildings and distance didn't work on her at all. But that was as far as she could go. She could hear them when she was unconscious. But at that time, she'd unconsciously accepted the sounds outside. It was also these sounds that had woken her up. After waking up, she was more subjective in her selection of sounds. She could control herself to only listen to a certain sound. As long as it was within a certain range, she could hear everything. She also found out from the conversation between the members of the supernatural organization. There was a spiritual world in this world that she didn't know or understand. She seemed to be a member of the spiritual world too. Of course, she'd also heard about Qinzhao. Whether it was the members of the organization or the people in the dungeon. When they talked about Qinzhao, there was only one topic. Scary. This was the topic she'd heard the most about Qinzhao. At the same time, she also knew that Qinzhao wasn't as kind as he seemed. Just then, the elevator door opened again. Adus pushed the food cart in. When he saw Maev and Neri Wanlansi, he only nodded. Adus didn't say anything else regarding their appearance here. After all, Qinzhao had told him to let them go wherever they wanted. Mr. Adus, hello. Neri Wanlansi was still a bit nervous. She knew nothing about this place or the people here. Hello, Adus said. It's not very safe here, so it's best not to come down. Mr. Adus, why are they locked here? As a normal woman, Neri Wanlansi still couldn't understand this. After all, whether it was from a moral or a legal perspective, this was not allowed. They did bad things, that's why they're locked up here. But, can you detain people at will? Not necessarily. Only under certain circumstances, Adus said calmly. They are all under certain circumstances. Adus leisurely distributed lunch to everyone in the glass house. Then he walked up to Maev. Lady Maev, can you see them? Yes. Maev knew what Erdos was talking about. Adus had two wraiths with him, and they were talking to each other. Maev wasn't surprised by this at all. Back upstairs, Nelly Wanlansi asked impatiently. Maev, Adus asked you who you could see just now. That is the biggest secret here, and I happen to know it. Surface secret. You still don't understand. Understand what? Everyone here is not an ordinary person. Maev said, also, there are far more people here than you see. There are others who will make your hair stand on end. I still don't understand. Wraiths, just like what you think. There are a lot of wraiths wandering around here. Stop joking. Nelly Wanlansi's expression was stiff. Maev didn't sound like she was joking. That's what Adus asked me just now. He asked me if I could see the wraiths wandering around him. Are you serious? Of course. Nellie Lancey was skeptical about Maev's words. After all, she couldn't accept it immediately without seeing it with her own eyes. Also, Maev's emotions weren't stable. Nellie Lancey couldn't be sure if Maev was normal. Then why can you see him but I can't? I heard people here say that the awakening of a witch is divided into life and death trials. I might have awakened because I passed one. What's a life and death trial? I'm not too sure about that. Everything I know is from the conversations of the people here. Maev paused. But the first inhuman I saw wasn't the wraiths here. It was Mr. Chin. Mr. Chin. He's not human. Nellie Lancey asked in surprise. He's human, but he's not an ordinary person. Maev fell silent again. After a while, Maev said again, a group of armed bandits broke into my house. Then Mr. Chin came and killed them all alone, saving my husband and I. I was heavily injured, but I could still hear the bandits' screams. But he's not a cop. When I was in danger, it wasn't the police who came to save me. So you're saying that there's some kind of unconventional organization here? More accurately, it's a paranormal organization. This place is called the Supernatural Organization, and Mr. Chen is the leader of the organization. But I still don't see him. Because you're an ordinary person, Maev said. You said you're an awakened witch. So other than seeing wraiths, what else can you do? Me? What can I do? Maev fell into deep thought. She didn't know any magic yet. But subconsciously, she believed that she was more than that. He could receive a lot of sounds, so his magic power was most likely related to sound. Maev opened her mouth slightly. She realized that she could actually make super high-frequency sounds. Humans couldn't hear them at all. Maev looked at the glass window in front of her. The high-frequency sounds shot toward the glass. Crack, the glass window shattered at the sound of the noise. Do you see that cracked window? That's what I did. You did. How did you do that? Nellie Lancey still didn't want to believe it. After all, seeing was believing. Look carefully at the glass next to you. Maev opened her mouth again. Maev felt that her abilities weren't limited to this. So this time, Maev raised her voice. Crack, a crack appeared on the second piece of glass as well. Moreover, the cracks on the glass window were very dense. Do you see it? Nellie Lancey saw the crack with her own eyes. She couldn't help but rub her eyes. She still couldn't believe it. Chapter 1936. The glass, which hadn't cracked a moment ago, was now covered in cracks. But now, she had doubts again. Did Maev really do this? Or was there a device on the glass? Nellie Lancey looked at Maev in confusion. Is this the magic you were talking about? It's different from what I imagined. In Nellie Lancey's imagination, magic was the kind of dazzling and colorful things in movies and TV shows. She had to admit that Nellie Lancey's thought was surprisingly similar to Chen Zhao's. But in reality, most magic wasn't colorful. It wasn't that it couldn't achieve the effect. But light and shadow also needed energy. This meant that the effect would weaken. So, unless it was necessary, there wouldn't be any beautiful effects. Most of the time, the so-called dazzling effects were produced by the construction of magic arrays. But Nellie Lancey and Maev didn't understand this. What a magical power. This is my first time using it. Maev looked at her thin hands. Maev tried a few more times, but it wasn't pure magic. But even so, Nellie Lancey was already stunned by what she saw. She finally believed that there were things she didn't understand in this world. Are there really a lot of spirits around? Nary when Lancey asked. Maeve nodded. A lot. Will they attack us? No, they're also members of the Supernatural Association, Maeve said. Their leader should be a spirit called Pamela. Nellie when Lancey still shuddered. So that's the secret Klaus was hiding. Klaus touched his nose and held the phone. Do you know? Yes, I know. On the other end, Nary when Lancey said, I saw an unimaginable power. Who showed it to you? There shouldn't be anyone else in the headquarters apart from the president, right? Did he show it to you? No. Do you remember Maeve? Oh, the injured woman. Klaus was dazed. Is she awake now? Yes, I do. Nary when Lancey heard some noise on the other end. Klaus, what are you doing? Roar. I'm saying I'm fighting. Do you believe me? Fighting? With whom? Not human, Klaus said. Then am I disturbing you? It's okay, it's not time for us to appear yet. Klaus held the phone between his shoulders as he paid attention to the battlefield. Although the battlefield was constantly changing, Klaus and the people from the Supernatural organization were at the back, so the battle at the front didn't affect them. Then you go ahead. Call me back when you're free. Nellie when Lancey did not dare to delay Klaus. All right, I'll call you later. Klaus hung up. What's wrong? Nami asked. It's nothing. Klaus shook his head and returned his attention to the battlefield. At this moment, the battlefield was shrouded in darkness. However, there was an instrument in front of them. The instrument had many red and white dots. There were fewer red dots, about 100 or so, while there were many white dots, reaching tens of thousands. Mr. West, when do we attack? Klaus asked. There's no rush. Even if we kill 100 normal spirit beasts, they won't be worth as much as one leader spirit beast. So, rather than wasting magic power on normal spirit beasts, we might as well choose the right time. The white dots on the instrument were spirit beasts, while the red dots were human spiritualists. However, human spiritualists were clearly stronger than spirit beasts. And the number of spirit beasts far exceeded the humans. It was hard to say who was stronger. Because both sides were preserving their strength. As long as the spirit beasts were killed, they would turn into spirit light. More and more spirit light appeared in the air, almost lighting up the entire battlefield. At this moment, two gigantic spirit beasts appeared from the back of the battle line. The two huge spirit beasts were leader spirit beasts. They did not enter the battlefield directly. Instead, they opened their mouths and started to devour the spirit light released by their dead comrades. They're here. West stared at the two leader spirit beasts. On the other side of the battlefield, the guardians and managers stood on high ground. They were also looking down at the battlefield. Sivir clenched her fists. Irene Horton sat lazily on the ground. These invited spiritualists don't seem very strong, a girl in red said. The girl in red, Rose Twilight. She was a genius girl, known as the most outstanding genius of the new generation. She was even more outstanding than the Scarlet Church's 25th generation Blood Mary. She came from a famous magic family in Europe, the Twilight family. Since she was 8, she could already carry out difficult missions on her own. The real experts haven't attacked yet, the man standing at the front said. The man standing at the head of the table said. He was the only manager recognized by the Nature Guardian, and he was also the one who could borrow the most draconic power. His name was Malin, and in ancient Greek, Malin meant Titan. And he indeed had the blood of a true Titan. It was precisely because of the Titan's bloodline that he was able to withstand such a huge amount of dragon power. And after his Titan power merged with the dragon power, he could almost reach 30% of a real dragon's power. Experts. Really? A white-bearded old man wearing thick reading glasses said. The white-bearded old man was called Sarah. He was originally a volunteer for ecological protection. He was seriously injured in an accident and was saved by the witch doctor of a local tribe. That tribe worshipped the poisonous dragon. They saw the poisonous dragon as their god. Then, the white-bearded old man accidentally received the poisonous dragon's recognition and was given new power. He also became one of the 6 guardians of order. Yes, Sivir said. 2 days ago, he single-handedly defeated the speed-enhanced type spiritualist hiding in the gathering area. He's very powerful. Strange, why hasn't he done anything yet? Sivir was originally an ordinary witch. She was different from the others. She didn't have extraordinary knowledge, a strong family background, or outstanding talent. But she was the only one who accepted the Guardian's test and passed. So she also became one of the 6 Guardians of Order. Just then, the sky above the battlefield suddenly lit up. It was very, very bright, as if it was daytime. A girl floated in the air with one hand raised high. Her raised palm was holding a small sun with a diameter of 10 meters. Chapter 1937. The little sun lit up the entire battlefield. Little sun. That's from the Holy Fire sect. Malone stared at the little sun in shock. This spell was too iconic. The little sun was a spell unique to the Holy Fire sect. It wasn't something normal people could come into contact with. Sivir looked at Jocelyn and Nash in surprise, even though they were far away. She was far away, but she could still see Jollinash clearly. She hadn't talked to Jollinash before. But she still remembered that Jollinash was from the Supernatural Organization. She came from North America. Magri Modrich was also on the battlefield. He looked up at the little sun in the sky. This spell was stolen from him by the Supernatural Organization. Therefore, when he saw this spell, his heart could be said to be filled with mixed feelings. Jollinash's spell was even more powerful than his. It was obvious that Jollinash's magic power was much higher than his. Jollinash looked down at the battlefield from above. She needed to estimate where the little sun would land. If she threw it at the center of the battlefield, she could achieve the greatest result. But at the same time, it would also affect their comrades. There was no such thing as sacrificing oneself for the greater good on the battlefield. No one wanted to sacrifice themselves here. So, if she threw the little sun down, she would basically offend half of the spiritual world. Jollinash didn't want to cause trouble for the Supernatural Organization. Not only did the people on the battlefield see the little sun in the sky. 2 chief-level spirit beasts appeared at the edge of the battlefield. They also saw the little sun and Jollinash. One of the leader-level spirit beasts opened its mouth wide. It started charging, gathering the spiritual light it had just absorbed in its mouth. This move was very similar to Qin Zhao's Holy Light Cannon. But the chief-level spirit beast took a longer time to charge. Of course, it was more powerful too. Qin Zhao's Holy Light Cannon could be fired at any time. But the power was limited and the range was only a few dozen meters. But the chief-level spirit beast had already started charging from 2,000 to 3,000 meters away. Oh no, Sivir said anxiously. That girl released such a large-scale spell in the air. She's an open target. They were 2 to 3 kilometers away from the center of the battlefield. They couldn't save her in time even if they wanted to. She must have never fought against spirit beasts before, so she doesn't understand their characteristics and abilities. Malone said, "What a pity." If she hadn't been so reckless, she would have become an outstanding warrior. Jocelyn and Nash also realized that they were being targeted. However, she was not anxious about this, because her companion was nearby. At that moment, West said to Helis, go protect Jolanash. No problem. Helith leaped up. There was a black cloud under her feet. This black cloud was the aura of death. This was a new method that Helis had come up with after returning from Norway. Just like the immortals of China, they stepped on the clouds and chased after the stars and the moon. She also became another member of the association who could fly after Gaia, Norma, Jolene, and Nash. Helis came to Jolanash's side. Jolanash was still forming a small sun. However, it was not strenuous for her. Under the influence of the fire dragon's calamity, Little Sun's consumption of magic power was halved and its power doubled. Fire dragon calamity was created from the heart of a fire dragon. Its amplification of fire-type magic reached a shocking level. Helis, the black cloud under your feet is really interesting. Just then, the distant leader-level spirit beast fired its mouth cannon. A beam of white light broke through the night sky and headed straight for Jolanash. It's over. Malone shook his head. That girl might be able to block that attack in her normal state, but in her current state, she probably won't be able to escape. The others around Malone had the same expression on their faces. Of course, they hoped to have more powerful helpers. The stronger the better. However, they hadn't expected something like this to happen. Just then, a black cloud enveloped Jolanash. Apart from the small sun's light that could still penetrate the black cloud, she couldn't see anything else. The strong beam of light shot into the black cloud and disappeared without a trace. It didn't penetrate the black cloud, nor did it cause an explosion. It was as if nothing had happened. Helis' aura of death had the ability to absorb energy. Of course, the aura of death had a limit. If it exceeded the limit, the aura of death would directly dissipate. However, there was no need to worry about this battle. The two leader-level spirit beasts weren't that powerful. Just then, the black cloud suddenly spread out. The small sun didn't shrink. Instead, it grew larger. Malone and the others were all shocked. Necromancer. One had to say that this battle was full of surprises. And the surprises came one after another. Siver's expression was one of shock. She had originally thought that the supernatural organization from North America only had an elite, no matter how powerful they were. In such a large area, one or two experts wasn't enough to shock her. But then, Jolanash and Helis' appearance shocked her once again. At the same time, Jolanash finally finished preparing her spell. The small sun shone brightly like a real sun. It fell like a mountain. However, the small sun didn't fall vertically. Instead, it pointed diagonally at the two leader-level spirit beasts. The spirit beasts on the battlefield could feel the sun's light. Their strength was suppressed by at least 20%. Even though it didn't hit directly, just the light alone was enough to change the tide of the battle. Rumble, the small sun finally fell to the ground. In that instant, the earth shook. Destructive shockwaves swept in all directions. Magri Modric's expression completely froze. This spell was passed down from his hands. But why was it in Jolanash's hands that it displayed miraculous power? At the place where the little sun had landed, everything within a radius of 1,000 meters was obliterated. Everyone stopped what they were doing, even those who were fighting. The destructive power scared everyone, including Jolanash. Helis looked at Jolanash. Your spell is so destructive. Even if Helis' death spell was 100 times stronger, it couldn't reach Jolanash's level. It's not my power. Jolanash shook her head. It's the power of the fire dragon disaster. The fire dragon disaster contains a huge amount of fire elements. As my spell is released, it attaches to it. It will take at least 3 days for me to unleash such destructive power again. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.